Chapter 1833. A delightful discovery this was the exact opposite of Naipeo. This was also why Lin envied Naipeo. But looking at it from a different point, Naipeo could convert other people's chi into his own, and that meant that his chi wouldn't have any healing abilities. Lin still had an advantage in this aspect. This mutated fire-poison chi filled every corner of Lin Yi's arm. They weren't connected, but were spread out. Perhaps it was because of the suppression from the outside world. They were temporarily suppressed by the chi in his body. Without the suppression from the outside world, they would probably have the upper hand. Lin carefully used his own chi to surround the fire-poison chi, thinking of a way to gather it all together. Only by gathering it together and suppressing it would Lin wake up and force it out of his body. But while it sounded easy, it was extremely difficult to do. When Lin Yi's chi came into contact with the fire-poison chi, the originally peaceful fire-poison chi became restless again. Lin suddenly felt an incomparably hot aura coming from the fire-poison chi, making his entire body shiver. This fire-poison chi was terrifying. It was just a moment, but it was enough to make people feel intimidated, not wanting to go near it at all. As expected, going mad was the biggest obstacle in the path of martial arts. Since the ancient times, there had been many geniuses who had been ruined by going mad, either going mad for the rest of their lives, or exploding and dying. Even with Lin Yi's strong willpower, when he first came into contact with the fire-poison chi, he had the urge to give up immediately. But Lin took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and persevered. He quickly channeled the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, using his chi to force the fire-poison chi to his right hand. Lin was prepared to force all the fire-poison chi in his body to his right hand, and then force it out at the same time. But in the next moment, Lin realized that while his thoughts were perfect, the fire-poison chi didn't seem to listen to the art of dragon mastery at all. It even seemed to be resisting it. This shocked Lin. How could this fire-poison chi be so strong? Dash! After half an hour of struggle, Lin finally couldn't hold it in any longer and gave up. This was because he realized that no matter how hard he tried, the fire-poison chi didn't listen to his command and didn't move at all. You tell me to go east, I won't go west, but I won't go east either. I'll stay where I am. What can you do to me? Although it was only half an hour, Lin was already sweating profusely. He felt that the strength he used to fight the fire-poison chi for half an hour was more difficult than breaking through to the next level. Jiao Lao! I can't do it anymore. The fire-poison chi doesn't listen to me at all. I can't force them together. Lin smiled bitterly and said to Jiao Lao, "That's right. If it listened to you, then it would be strange." Jiao Yazi listened to Lin Yi's words, but nodded as if it was a matter of course. Huh. Lin Yi's eyes widened and he said in surprise, "What do you mean? Isn't this what you want me to do? I did ask you to do this, but when did I say that you should use the first stage of the art of dragon mastery to drive away the fire-poison chi?" Jiao Yazi asked. "If I don't use the first stage, then use the second stage?" Lin retorted confidently. "It's because I trained in the second stage that I went crazy. Wouldn't I be looking for death if I still used the second stage? Didn't you already lose control? Furthermore, the people in the outside world must have given you the antidote to suppress your chi deviation. You have already passed the second stage of body tempering and the early stage of foundation establishment. You won't suffer chi deviation anymore. At least, you won't suffer chi deviation for the same reason." Jiao Yazi explained, "This fire-poison chi is caused by the chi deviation when you cultivated the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. You want to use the first stage of the art of dragon mastery to drive it away? It's impossible even if you think about it." Lin wiped the sweat off his forehead, a little embarrassed. Indeed, he didn't think of this before. The fire poison was caused by the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. Why would it be afraid of the first stage of the art of dragon mastery? No wonder it wasn't afraid, and even had a faint intention to resist. He used the wrong method. Then why didn't you remind me before, or stop me from doing useless things? Lin Yi said, sadly, wasting half an hour of effort. When you were cultivating, I didn't dare to disturb you. I was afraid that if I reminded you, you would lose control again, and the loss would outweigh the gain, Jiao Yazi said seriously. Lin Yi was speechless. In the past, when he was cultivating normally, Jiao Yazi often talked to him, but now he was afraid. However, Lin Yi also understood that he had lost control and had traumatized Jiao Yazi, so he was afraid that something would go wrong in other aspects. After resting for a while, Lin Yi started cultivating the art of dragon mastery again. But this time he was cultivating the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. Because he wasn't very familiar with it, Lin Yi was carefully exploring and cultivating. Before he was familiar with the art of dragon mastery, Lin Yi tried his best not to touch the fire poison chi. As for the fire poison chi, Lin Yi didn't touch them, so they naturally didn't care what Lin Yi was doing. About a day later, Lin Yi had completely mastered the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. It couldn't be said to be a small achievement, but at least he could use it freely. And Lin Yi didn't plan to make any progress in cultivation before the fire poison was expelled. Slowly, Lin Yi began to try to use the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to guide the qi in his body to wrap around the fire poison qi. And at this moment, something happened that shocked Lin Yi. The fire poison that had been so arrogant after encountering the pure energy of the second stage of the art of dragon mastery became fearful and fearful. It was no longer as arrogant as before. Feeling this scene, Lin Yi was immediately overjoyed, but also a little embarrassed. If he had done this earlier, the previous half an hour of effort would not have been wasted. The fire poison qi, under the guidance of the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, was wrapped by Lin Yi's qi. Although it was a little reluctant, it still moved slowly. This change made Lin even more happy. Although the fire poison moved very slowly, it was a good thing that it could move. It seemed that although the fire poison was a mutation of the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, it was still unable to resist the real second stage of the qi. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1834. Once again, finally, the small ball of fire poison qi was sent to the end of Lin Yi's right palm, and Lin Yi started moving the second ball of fire poison qi. With the experience from before, he was much more familiar with the process. Soon, the second ball of fire poison qi was sent to the end of Lin Yi's right palm as well, merging with the first ball of fire poison qi, forming an even bigger ball of fire poison qi. As long as he had the perseverance, he'd be able to gather all the fire poison qi in his body. Yu Lu returned to the hidden house Yu. Xiaoqin didn't blame him, but it was still a pity that he'd lost such a great opportunity. After that, Xiaoqian went to see the old ancestor of House Yu once more, telling him everything that had happened. It's regretful, but you did the right thing. Old ancestor Yu nodded and said seriously, if Yu Lu was really hurt, ha, then our house, you wouldn't be able to get away with this either. Yes, Xiaoqian nodded, but giving up on the search for Lin Yi just like that, isn't that a bit of a waste? Of course it's a waste to give up, but with just our hidden house Yu's strength, finding someone who has the heart to hide in Songshan is extremely difficult. Old ancestor, you said. Especially with Lingshan and Chan Yutian in the middle, it'll be even more troublesome. But Lin Yi's enemies aren't just our house, Yu only. There's the hidden house Xiao and the hidden house Yu. We'll pull them in to look for Lin Yi. That'll be much easier. Then the qi gathering pill. Xiaoqian was worried that the pill would fall into someone else's hands. Naturally, we won't tell them about the pill, and when we make our move, we can make an agreement that all 3 houses will send practitioners to cause trouble for Lin Yi. That way, all 3 of us will have less responsibility, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to work with us. Old ancestor, you said. All right, we'll do as you say, father. Xiaoqian nodded. Don't look at how the Yu family failed to contact the Great Elder. Which one of these hidden families wasn't a smart person. Even though the threat of the first elder and that person should be gone, these people were still waiting to see what would happen. Yu Lu went out for a stroll and didn't attract any trouble, so they couldn't wait to go out and take a look themselves. Coincidentally, there was a message from House Yu, asking them to search for Lin Yi together. Naturally, they agreed. Thus, the hidden house of Yu and the hidden house of Zhao all came to Songshan City and began to inquire about Lin Yi's whereabouts in the Sea of People. Of course, all of this was done in secret. After all, Ling Shan was the captain of the criminal investigation team, and if they did it openly, Ling Shan would definitely know about it. If Ling Shan was in contact with Lin Yi, then she'd notify Lin Yi and the others immediately, making them even more vigilant. Finding Lin Yi's traces would be even harder. It was a difficult period of time. Meng Yao and Yu Shu worked hard every day, but they were happy. Although they were tired to the point that their bodies ached, they were happy. Whenever they found an old phone or an old appliance, they'd be filled with energy, and they'd move on to the next target. The Skybell pig's cry became their motivation. However, even though it was hard work, not only did they save enough money for Lin Yi's medical expenses, but they also had money for Pengzhan's medical expenses. Meng Yao would send Faubert 10 to 20,000 yuan every 2 to 3 days. Even Li Fu was speechless at how fast they were earning money. If he didn't know what kind of people Meng Yao and Yu Shu were, he would have thought that they'd gone into some shady business. After all, these two girls had to pay for Lin Yi's medical bills and still save 5,000 to 10,000 kuai a day. What did they have to do to earn that much? It would be fine if they were white-collar workers in big companies, but they didn't have any social experience, and they didn't have a university degree. Which company could they go to get such a salary? But since Meng Yao and Yu Shu didn't say anything, Faubert didn't ask. He knew that Yu Shu and Yao Yao weren't frivolous people. Today's income is almost 20,000 yuan. Meng Yao couldn't stop smiling. In the past, she wouldn't even feel anything when she earned 20,000 yuan. After all, Pengzhan Industries made a lot of money every day. 20,000 yuan wasn't much. But now, she was jumping with joy because of this 20,000 yuan. This was the life-saving money for Lin Yi and her father. Yeah, I'm so happy. Skybolt Pig, you're amazing. I'll ask Shield Bro to be the first to level up and let you level up before General Weiwu. Yu Shu wouldn't be stingy with her promise, since it didn't cost her any money. But just this alone was enough to make Skybolt Pig happy. General Weiwu, on the other hand, was a little depressed. He was the big brother and Meng Yao was the second brother, but the big brother leveled up slower than the second brother. Oink, oink. Skybolt Pig looked at General Weiwu proudly. As if he was showing off, he shook his little body in front of General Weiwu. Next, Lin Yi gathered the fire poison in his heart and head into his right palm. He realized that his long-lost connection with the outside world was restored. Although he couldn't wake up yet, he could clearly feel what was happening outside his body. Lin Yi wasn't surprised. Lin Yi used his heart and head to connect with the outside world. Now that the fire poison in these two parts was gone, his connection with the outside world was restored. He was in an unfamiliar room. The decorations in the room were old and broken. One could even say that there were no decorations at all. He was lying on an old iron folding bed. Beside his bed was an old table with some clothes and female products. Lin Yi could tell that these belonged to Meng Yao and Yu Shu. Beside the foldable bed was a mattress. The so-called mattress was a mattress and quilt placed on the ground, allowing people to sleep on the ground. This must be where Meng Yao and Yu Shu slept. Lin Yi didn't understand why he was sleeping in such an old place. Although the place was clean and spotless, it was still too old. It couldn't even compare to West Star Village. Lin Yi couldn't find a place like this in his memory. Not long after, just when Lin Yi was confused, footsteps came from outside the room. Meng Yao and Yu Shu's happy voices were heard. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1835. Touched Yao sis, I didn't think that the old laptop could be sold for more than 2,000 just because the hard disk was broken. Yushu said excitedly. I thought it would only be a few hundred, but today we broke the 20,000 mark. Yeah, but thanks to Grandma Sun's connections, we wouldn't be able to understand why those second-hand electronics merchants would lie to us. Meng Yao was happy as well. Today's income was more than what they had expected. Lin Yi listened to the two and couldn't help but feel strange. What laptop sold for more than 2,000? Who was Grandma Sun? Meng Yao and Yushu entered the room, and the first thing they did was to check on Lin Yi's condition. After making sure that Lin Yi was fine, they nodded in relief. Shoo, I'll go brew the medicine. You take a shower first, Meng Yao said. Okay. Every day they go out to pick up scraps. Both of them are dirty. This is something that Xiao Shu and Yao, who love to be clean, how can they stand it? Luckily, Grandma Sun had an old-fashioned water heater, so they could take a shower every night before going to bed. Of course, they would still be dirty after putting on the dirty clothes the next day, but at least they could sleep comfortably at night. Because of the smell of medicine, Yushu would take a shower first, and Meng Yao would take a shower after brewing the medicine. This way, the two of them could share the hot water. Otherwise, the water heater wouldn't be able to supply enough hot water for both of them at once. Lin Yi saw how dirty they were and felt that it was strange. What were they doing? However, Lin Yi could only sense what was going on in the outside world. He couldn't ask with a clear mind, so he could only bury the question in his heart. However, what Lin Yi didn't expect was that Yushu started taking off her clothes not long after Meng Yao left the room. In a blink of an eye, she was naked. Lin Yi felt like his blood was about to explode. Although he had seen Shu naked before, Lin Yi realized that he could see things more clearly with his senses. Previously, he only had a cursory glance, but now he could see everything clearly. Shield bro, after Shu showers, I'll help you wipe your body. You haven't showered in a while, too. Yushu didn't know that Lin Yi could sense her as she walked up to Lin Yi. Suddenly, Lin Yi felt like he couldn't stand it anymore. His body was burning hot because of Shu. The fire poison that was originally under control started to get restless again. This situation shocked Lin Yi. He quickly cut off his connection with the outside world. Although Xiao Shu was beautiful, if he looked at her any longer, he would be even more obsessed. Lin Yi didn't dare to look at her anymore. Full. Lin Yi calmed himself down and quickly gathered his thoughts. Lust was like a knife to his head. He almost went crazy again because of this. This made Lin Yi very scared. What's wrong? Jiao Yazi looked at Lin Yi strangely. He didn't know why he was so short of breath. Nothing. Lin Yi was too embarrassed to say what he saw. He smiled bitterly and continued to push the fire poison into the meridians of his right hand. After a while, Lin Yi realized that his body in the outside world seemed to have been lifted up by someone. Curious, Lin Yi stopped expelling the poison and used his senses to sense what was going on in the outside world. He realized that Meng Yao was slowly helping him up, feeding him a bowl of medicine that she'd brewed. Lin Yi had no idea what the medicine tasted like and whether it was hot or not. He was only using his senses to communicate with the outside world. If he could smell the medicine, it meant that he was about to wake up. But Lin Yi was puzzled. What was this place? School is about to start and Lin Yi hasn't woken up yet. We can't go and register. Meng Yao smiled bitterly. I hope Lin Yi will wake up soon. Yeah, otherwise we'll have to rely on scavenging for a living. Although we have Skybolt Pig, we can find good stuff every day. Yushu nodded. It's been a tough but fulfilling life. Shu, we can finally do something for Lin Yi, Meng Yao sighed. Yes, these days have made me understand how difficult it was for Uncle Chu to make money in the past. Little Shu nodded. But when Shield Bro recovers, everything will be fine. We can live like a missy again. Meng Yao was speechless. The more Lin Yi listened to their conversation, the stranger he felt. But he couldn't ask them directly. He could only judge from their conversation that these two seemed to be living a hard life. They relied on scavenging for a living. And the strangest thing was that they were using skybolt pigs to scavenge for scraps. No wonder they could pick up 20,000 yuan worth of junk a day. How could an ordinary person pick up so much? It was an astronomical figure. But for the skybolt pig who had the ability to find treasures, it was really nothing. He could even find treasures, let alone these valuable old things. The two chatted for a while, and Meng Yao went to take a shower. Lin Yi quickly cut off the connection with the outside world. He just saw Shu, and if he saw the miss again, he'd go crazy. After a while, Meng Yao finished her shower and came back with a basin of water. Together with Shu, she wiped Lin Yi's face and hands. As for the other parts of his body, they didn't touch them. Shu was embarrassed, but the mist didn't. The days passed by peacefully, and Lin Yi slowly got rid of the fire poison in the other meridians besides his head and heart. The effects were very obvious, and Lin Yi believed that it wouldn't be long before he woke up if he kept working hard like this. In this period of time, Lin Yi also understood one thing: why Meng Yao and Yu Shu were here. Through their intermittent conversation, Lin Yi understood that Peng Zhan and Fatty Lai were both bankrupt. Not only did they lose their source of income, but there was also House Yu's sixth Yu who wanted to kill him. So they could only live in Grandma Sun's house every day and scavenge for a living. Luckily, no one would pay attention to these girls who scavenge for scraps, and Yu Lu and the others wouldn't even think that the former miss would do such a thing. Meng Yao and Yu Shu's attentive care touched Lin Yi immensely. He didn't think that the misses would be willing to put in so much effort. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1836. Ice Palace and Snowy Valley Ice Palace. The Ice Palace didn't have a channel like the Dark Shadow Group, and their friendship with the Hidden House Tang was broken. But the fact that Lin Yi had gone mad was something that all the hidden houses knew about, and it still reached Bingtang's ears. Ice Palace Master, do you think we should help? Little Qing told Rock Candy immediately after receiving the news. Help? Help with what? Bingtang humphed. Don't tell Xiao Xiao about this. Then, what if Lin Yi gets into danger? Qing paused. Danger? If he can't even deal with this, then he doesn't deserve Xiao Xiao. It's better if he dies. He won't be a burden to Xiao Xiao in the future. Bingtang rejected Qing's suggestion. Actually, there was something she didn't say, and was too embarrassed to say it. If Lin Yi was this weak, how could he want her to be his little wife? Bingtang held a grudge against Lin Yi for teasing her back then. She was a heaven-class late phase peak master, the head of an ancient sect. She was actually teased by an earth-class early phase master, and he even threatened to make her his little wife. Therefore, Bingtang was very vengeful. If you're so strong, then you should face it yourself. Qing shook her head and didn't say anything else. After all, Bingtang was the head of the Ice Palace, and Xiao Xiao hadn't become an inheritor yet. Snowy Valley. The Grand Elder finally realized that something was wrong. Although Tang Yin tried her best to hide that she'd forgotten about Lin Yi, how strong was the Grand Elder? Tang Yin was just an inheritor who had just received the inheritance. She didn't have the slightest bit of strength. It could only be said that the current Tang Yin wouldn't have to face any obstacles on her path of training. The bottleneck that other people faced during training was no longer a problem for Tang Yin. Receiving the inheritance meant that she had the body of a sky-class late-phase peak. She could take another step forward, and so Tang Yin only needed to train step by step, and she would be able to reach sky-class late-phase peak. Of course, Tang Yin was still too naive in the Grand Elder's eyes. It didn't take long for the Grand Elder to notice her weakness. You didn't use the forgetfulness herb? The Grand Elder's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Tang Yin, shocked and angry. I didn't. Tang Yin shook her head. She didn't want to hide it anymore. The Grand Elder looked at Tang Yin with grief and indignation, but he didn't know what to say. Lin Yi had already left. Even if he could make another bottle of forgetfulness grass, It wouldn't have any effect on Tang Yin without Lin Yi's blood. So even if the Grand Elder was angry, there was nothing he could do to remedy the situation. Sigh. After the grief and indignation, the Grand Elder couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said, "You gave Lin Yi the medicinal liquid of the senseless grass." "Yes, I want him to forget me. I don't want him to see my heartless face. It'll be very painful for him." Tang Yin nodded and said firmly, "Why didn't you say so earlier? If you want, I will prepare another portion of the forgotten love grass medicinal liquid for you." The Grand Elder helplessly shook his head and said, "No, I won't drink it. I want to remember him forever. I want to remember the days we spent together. This will be the most precious memory in my life. I don't want to forget it." Tang Yin shook her head and said, "These days will never come again. I will keep it in my heart forever. No one can take it away." Tang Yin said firmly. The Grand Elder couldn't help but be moved. She had already experienced how strong this seemingly weak girl's character was. She was able to kneel in the snow for 15 days, and she did it with the thought of dying. This tenacity was not something others could compare with. So, the Grand Elder knew that she didn't need to persuade her. Tang Yin had already made up her mind. There was no point in persuading her. Moreover, now that there was no danger of Lin Yi going crazy, the Grand Elder and the others were begging Tang Yin. If Tang Yin gave up and stopped practicing, then it would be too late for the Grand Elder to cry. But you have to know that if you have feelings in your heart, the path of practicing the heartless spell will be full of obstacles and thorns. You might even lose your mind. It is extremely difficult. The Great Supreme Elder sighed. "It is for your own good that I let you consume the heartless herb's medicinal liquid." "I know, but I appreciate Senior's kindness. I think I should be able to control the demon in my heart." Tang Yin said, "After all, the inheritor's path of practice will be smooth. Moreover, didn't the founder of the sect not use the forgetfulness herb to reach the Great Tao?" The Grand Elder couldn't help but smile bitterly. She waved her hand and said, "Forget it. You have the hidden ice heart, jade bone physique. Just like the founder of the sect, you can't be judged by common sense. Let's not mention this in the future." "Thank you, Senior." Tang Yin was overjoyed. As long as the Grand Elder didn't force her to forget Lin Yi, it would be fine. As for the way Tang Yin addressed the Grand Elder, she called her Senior instead of Master. After all, although the Grand Elder taught Tang Yin the heartless arts, it was nominally a disciple on behalf of the founder. Tang Yin's future position would also be the Grand Elder, an existence that was on par with the Grand Elder like Sydney. So, she really didn't dare to call her Master. She could only replace it with Senior. Once Tang Yin advanced to the peak of the late phase of Heaven class, they would be the same generation. "Your parents have already gone to the Snow Valley. They have just settled down. You can go and see them when you have time to practice." The Grand Elder said, "What? Mom is already here." Tang Yin was even happier after hearing that. "Yes, they are currently resting in the guest room. I have already arranged a separate courtyard for them. Once the cleaning is done, they can move in," the Grand Elder said. The Great Elder said, "Your birth mother and adoptive mother's physique is also very special. They belong to the normal ice physique. Although they are married women, if they are trained with the unique ice element mental cultivation method of the Snowy Valley, they will definitely reach the mystic class in their lifetime. Their lifespan will also be greatly extended." "Thank you, Grand Elder." Tang Yin heard this news and was surprised and happy. After thanking the Grand Elder, she quickly ran towards the guest room. Looking at her disappearing figure, the Grand Elder sighed helplessly. She muttered to herself, "Ice Heart Jade Bones, the heartless arts is to cultivate the heart. She is so concerned about family and love. How can she be heartless?" However, Tang Yin was the only hope of the Snow Valley. Although the Grand Elder was unhappy, She couldn't interfere with Tang Yun's cultivation. Otherwise, if Tang Yun stopped practicing, there would be nothing she could do. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1837. True Identity West Star Village. Mo Kongwen bid farewell to Old Lin and prepared to return. Although Old Man Lin tried his best to persuade Mo Kongwen to stay for a few more days and had a few drinks with Old Man Lin, he still had to leave. He had completed his mission this time and successfully helped Lin Yi overcome the calamity. Therefore, it was time for him to go back and continue his secluded cultivation to break through that barrier. Old friend, I have to go now. Take care. Mo Kongwen smiled at Old Lin, who was standing at the entrance of the village. This time, Lil, you will have to rely on himself. Old Lin sighed. I don't know what those two are thinking, asking you to protect Lil. Although it's not exactly smooth sailing, at least there won't be so many hidden houses looking for trouble with him anymore. Mo Kongwen could only smile bitterly when he heard Old Man Lin's words. Only Old Man Lin, who had been through life and death with them, would dare to call those two fellas master, and he both had their own considerations. You should know that if iron isn't tempered, it won't become steel. If jade isn't carved, it won't become a tool. Mo Kongwen continued. Moreover, before he reaches that level, I can only fight him a few times a year. If I do it more than twice, I won't be able to explain it to my master. Moreover, some forces are out of our control. 13 years have passed. You and I haven't had many breakthroughs because of our innate talents. However, the ancient sects and hidden families are producing many talents, especially the hidden families. There have been a few heaven-ranked masters appearing in recent years. This worries me. That's right, your worries are exactly what I'm worried about. The hidden aristocratic families are slowly getting out of control. But this is inevitable. Those two fellows aren't here anymore. And with just us two brothers, we won't be able to intimidate those heaven-ranked experts. Especially me. I can't leave yet. Old Lin smiled bitterly. But Master must have his reasons for making this arrangement. Mo Kongwen sighed. Actually, even he couldn't predict Lin Yi's fate. It was just like what was written in the ancient records. Once an ancient scroll was obtained, the person's fate would change. The more exquisite the ancient scroll, the more unpredictable the person's fate would be. Mo Kongwen didn't believe it before, but the first time he predicted that Lin Yi was in trouble, he failed. At that time, Lin Yi had already become a mystic ranked master, which surprised Mo Kongwen. From then on, Mo Kongwen couldn't predict Lin Yi's fate accurately. So, he decided not to predict it anymore. After saying goodbye, Mo Kongwen disappeared in the blink of an eye. Old Lin didn't find it strange at all. He just turned around and walked back. When Mo Kongwen returned to his place, his face changed slightly when he saw the communicator in the house. Mo Kongwen did not dare to be negligent. He sat cross-legged on an 8 trigrams diagram and began to calculate. After a while, Mo Kongwen opened his eyes. The result of the calculation made him shudder with fear. Mo Kongwen dialed Old Lin's number again. The last time they contacted each other in the West Star Mountain Village was the first time they contacted each other using the communicator. However, this time, they contacted each other directly through the phone. Old friend, have you returned to your place? Old Lin asked. Old friend Lin, there's a problem. Mo Kongwen said solemnly. Problem? What problem? Old Lin was startled and asked. The hidden families might be stirring up trouble. Mo Kongwen said. Hidden families? How can they stir up trouble? As long as the Earth class doesn't come out with Little Yi's skills and his friends, no one will be able to touch him. Old Lin said, confused. But what if those hidden families don't want to abide by the agreement? Mo Kongwen sighed. After all, he and the master have been gone for so many years. The Hidden Families Arbitration Association's control over the hidden families is getting weaker and weaker. Plus, I've been in isolation to break through that barrier. I don't believe that they won't be restless. Plus, I just did a divination. The hidden family's power structure is about to change. What? At this time, the old Lin was shocked. You're saying that the masters above the Earth class are about to come out? Heh. After enduring for so many years, anyone would be tempted. And Mo Kongwen said, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have let Lily go back no matter what. If he stayed by your side to recover, even if they send Sky-class masters, they won't be able to come back. But I'm worried about little E right now. Old Lin said hurriedly, I didn't think that the hidden families would use this method to test me. And Mo Kongwen said and told Old Lin about the communicator. Yes, Mo Kongwen was the Grand Elder of the Hidden Families Arbitration Association. However, because of what happened all those years ago, the founder of the association left, and he went into isolation to break through that final barrier. He wanted to reach the peak of his power before the opening of Sky Island, enter the heavenly path, and find his master. So, according to the promise he made to his master, he could only come out to help when Lin Yi was in irreversible danger. However, there was a clear rule. He couldn't come out more than twice a year. This was a restriction for him and also for Lin Yi. If he always thought about having a backer, then he would not think about making progress and develop a lazy character. If he exceeded this limit, then what awaited Mo Kongwen would be the most severe punishment. Mo Kongwen regretted wasting his first chance this year, and now his second chance had been used up as well. In other words, no matter what danger there was, he couldn't come out anymore. Looks like these people planned this. Old Lin couldn't help but feel angry. If little E didn't leave, those ancient sects would have to give him face. Now these new hidden houses are shaking their heads. Old friend Lin, call the people around little E and tell them to hide and avoid this. Don't give them a chance. And Mo Kongwen said, but they might not target little E. This was also because Mo Kongwen didn't know about Yu Huixing and the Qi gathering pill, or that Zhao Qibing had become the heir of House Zhao. If he knew, he wouldn't have said this. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1838. However, these two things were kept secret between House Yu and House Zhao. Only the core members of House Yu and House Zhao knew about it, let alone Mo Kongwen. Okay, I'll contact them right away, Old Lin said. After ending the call with Mo Kongwen, Old Lin dialed Mingyao's number right away, but her phone was turned off. He called Yushu again, but her phone was turned off as well. Lin Yi's phone was still turned off. This situation shocked Old Lin. But even if he was anxious, there was nothing he could do from 1,000 miles away. After many unsuccessful attempts, Old Lin had no choice but to call Mo Kongwen again. Old friend, how is it? Mo Kongwen was anxious as well. I can't contact them. Old Lin sighed. Maybe they're in trouble and are hiding. Sigh. Perhaps. Everything has its own destiny. Xiao Yi is already an Earth-ranked master now that he's facing some Earth-ranked opponents. It's also a form of training for him. Without adversity, how can he grow? Mo Kongwen hesitated for a moment before he said, back then, master, and him. Wasn't it the same? Let's hope so. Old Lin nodded. Songs Han, Mengyao, Yushu, and Grandma Sun were a group of scavengers, and although they kept a low profile, they still attracted the attention of other scavengers. After all, they picked up tens of thousands of yuan worth of old stuff in a day, and even if they tried to cover it up, there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world, especially when they were selling their old appliances and electronic products at the same place. There was bound to be a time when they would bump into each other. So, after knowing their income, many scavengers were envious. Many of the scavengers showed envy and jealousy in their eyes. If it weren't for Grandma Sun being a veteran in this industry, she had been scavenging for more than 10 years. She had absolute prestige, and who knew what kind of people would push them aside? However, Grandma Sun was a veteran, and although many people were envious, they couldn't do anything about it. But there was nothing they could do. Grandma Sun and the others could only become the topic of conversation after a meal. This phenomenon. Meng Yao and Yushu were very worried. People were afraid of being famous, and pigs were afraid of being fat. Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't care. She wouldn't even care if they took a photo of her as the most beautiful scavenger girl. But now, for Lin Yi, her identity couldn't be exposed. So Meng Yao and Yushu could only pray in their hearts that Lin Yi would wake up soon. So they could only end their scavenging days. Fortunately, scavenging was a relatively small industry. Their contact with the outside world was relatively small. The three of them were only known in the scavenger industry and did not attract the attention of others. Zhao and Hao Su had come to Songshan together, but they didn't have much interest in Lin Yi's death. Yes. Lin and Yu, Hao Su, yes, and Zhao. Yu and Zhao and Yu, Zhao, Yu San and yes, had and Yen, Yu, Chin and all. Chun and Yu and Zhao and Shan, Zhao, Yu and Lin. Although Lin Yi offended Yu Panhu, House Yu and Lin Yi didn't have a deep grudge. House Kong, on the other hand, had a deep grudge with Lin Yi, so Yu San came this time to act according to the situation. Before he left, Yu Jintian had already made it clear that if he could find Lin Yi, and if the hidden House Yu and House Zhao took action, then there was no harm in Yu San joining in the fun. After all, he would be returning a favor to House Kong. If he killed Lin Yi, House Kong would be very grateful to the hidden House Yu and would work even harder to help the hidden House Yu earn more money. But if the other two houses didn't make a move, House Yu wouldn't be the first bird to stick out. House Yu, on the other hand, was different. After House Yu joined forces with House Zhao and House Yu, Yu Lu came to Songshan again. He was determined to get Lin Yi. Putting aside the fact that Lin Yi had destroyed the common House Yu, Lin Yi stealing the Qi gathering pill was enough for House Yu to make a move. As for House Zhao, they made a move this time because of the grudge between Zhao Qibing and Lin Yi. They were actually cooperating with House Yu to test the waters. In fact, this was also because Hidden House Zhao always felt that they owed Hidden House Yu. So when Hidden House Yu called, they went with the flow. As for Lin Yi, Elder Bai and Zhao Qibing naturally hated him. They wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible, so House Zhao sent an Earth class, and a very high-level one at that. Zhao Guang'er was the second-generation disciple of House Zhao, the same generation as the young master Zhao Guangyin. He was currently in Earth class, late stage. The reason why they sent Zhao Guang'er out was because they wanted to kill Lin Yi once and for all, not giving him a chance to turn the situation around. But in the meeting of House Zhao, Zhao Qikuan had a different opinion. He didn't agree with sending a master to deal with Lin Yi. Elder Bai, that Lin Yi is so young and he's already in Earth class, early stage. The power behind him must be very strong, and we, House Zhao, don't need to get involved in this mess. Let the hidden House Yu and House Yu do it, or we can just send a random Earth class early stage. Zhao Qikuan said, Earth class late stage. House Zhao's strength is limited. We don't have enough masters of that level. What if something happens? Power behind him? Zhao Qibing smiled coldly. Why would he hide if he had a power behind him? Have you ever seen a disciple of an ancient sect go into hiding after going berserk? Under Yu Lu's pursuit, no one came out to support him? You call this having a background? Aye. Zhao Qikuan only wanted to stop House Zhao from doing this, but Zhao Qibing's words made sense. All right, it's decided. I've already asked the head of the house, and it's decided. Elder Bai waved his hand. If Lin Yi isn't killed, Qibing's business in Songshan will be affected as well. That's for House Zhao's money-making. Zhao Qikuan, you don't have to interfere. Elder Bai's decisiveness was also because of old Zhao's support. House Yu and House Zhao were in-laws, so naturally, House Zhao knew that House Yu had lost a Qi gathering pill and that Yu Huixing had blamed it on Lin Yi. And so, old Zhao wanted to use this chance to get rid of Lin Yi. That was the only way he could be at ease forever, knowing that the matter of him stealing the pill wouldn't be exposed. So, even without Zhao Qibing as a reason, Elder Zhao would still send the masters of the house to kill Lin Yi once and for all. This was also why House Zhao sent such a master. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1839. Yes. Qi Kuan felt sorrowful. He didn't know what was so good about this Qibing that Elder Bai was so fond of him, supporting him like this. He'd tried his best, but his position in the house were far from Qibing's. He was able to attend the meeting because he'd passed the Ice Palace test and sent Qijio to the Ice Palace for training. That was why House Zhao had a higher opinion of him. But it wasn't possible for him to have a say in the family right now. On this day, Meng Yao and Yushu went to the old goods market with Grandma's son in the evening to sell the things they'd picked up during the day, only to be spotted by two familiar faces. Of course, they weren't very familiar with each other, but they'd met a couple of times. They were Boss Zhu and Qin Shi. They'd seen them at the beach and then at the mountain behind the resort. But Boss Zhu and Qin Shi were on the other side of the market, and Meng Yao, Yushu, and Grandma's son were happily counting their money. They didn't notice that two familiar faces were looking at them in shock. Grandpa Zhu, aren't those two sisters Lin Yi-bro's rich friends? Why are they out here to scavenge? Chen, she looked at Meng Yao and Yushu curiously. Boss Zhu's eyes flashed with excitement as he said calmly, "A lot of rich kids go out to experience life during the summer. Maybe they're experiencing life. So that's how it is. Then should we go and say hello?" Chen, she nodded in realization. "No need, you don't know them well, right? Linny isn't here." Boss Zhu said. "You're right, I don't know them well, and Xiao sis isn't here." Chin, she gave up on the idea. You go back first today. Grandpa Zhu has something to do today, so I can't go home with you." Boss Zhu said calmly. "Okay." Chin, she didn't think much about it. Grandpa Zhu always had things to do. She was used to it. "I'll go back first then, okay? Don't forget to work hard." Boss Zhu reminded. "Don't worry, Grandpa Zhu, I won't let you down." Chen, she promised with a smile. Boss Zhu left the old goods market first, hiding behind a transport truck at the entrance. It wasn't long before Meng Yao, Yushu, and Grandma's son came out of the market, and Boss Zhu followed right behind them. With Boss Zhu's Earth class early phase strength, it was a piece of cake for him to hide from Meng Yao and the others. On the way, after passing the pharmacy, Meng Yao, Yushu, and Grandma's son entered the pharmacy. They wanted to get the medicine for Lin Yi. "This is the prescription for the last treatment. I hope Shield Bro can wake up soon." Yushu sighed. 10 days had gone by without her even noticing, and it had been a bitter time. There was perspiration. There is happiness. Although it was unforgettable, they still hoped that Lin Yi could wake up as soon as possible. After taking the medicine, Meng Yao went from gritting her teeth at first to paying the bill without hesitation. The difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. Meng Yao couldn't help but sigh. If it weren't for Skybolt Pig, they'd be in a much more difficult situation. The three left the pharmacy. Boss Zhu's eyes flashed with a smile. It seemed like Lin Yi had really gone mad like the rumors said. Otherwise, why would Meng Yao buy medicine for him? Of course, for safety's sake, Boss Zhu only followed them and didn't go to their door directly. He wasn't an idiot, after all. Why should he go alone when it came to the 3 houses? Besides, he was only in Earth class early phase, and Lin Yi was also in Earth class early phase. If Lin Yi faked it again, then he'd be dead meat. Boss Zhu knew that Lin Yi had the ability to fight higher levels. He wouldn't make a move before he had absolute confidence. It was better to leave Lin Yi to the stronger people. As long as he sent the information about Lin Yi's residence back to House Zhao, he'd be rewarded handsomely. Meng Yao, Yushu, and Grandma's son didn't notice anything at all, and went home as usual. Boss Zhu, on the other hand, chuckled and disappeared into the dusk after confirming their location. Hidden House Zhao was far away in Donghai, but for an Earth class like Boss Zhu, it only took him an hour to get back to the hidden house. "Elder Zhu!" Hidden House Zhao's disciple bowed and greeted Boss Zhu. Go tell Master Bing and the young head that I've brought back good news. Boss Zhu waved his hand slightly, signaling the disciple on duty to go. The disciple nodded respectfully and turned to leave. Not long after, Guanyin and Qibing came out to welcome them. Boss Zhu was only in Earth class early phase, but he was still very important to Guanyin, especially since old Zhao was the head of House Zhao. Guanyin couldn't command an Earth class, but Zhao Qibing had taken Boss Zhu under his wing. This made Guanyin value Qibing even more. Boss Zhu, I heard you've brought back good news? Guanyin laughed and walked over. Yes, young head. Boss Zhu bowed. What good news? Quick, tell me. Zhao Qibing said, quickly. Young head, Master Bing, after a thorough investigation and search, I finally found Lin Yi, that brat's hiding place. Boss Zhu said and told them what he saw. Guanyin and Zhao Qibing weren't idiots. They knew that Boss Zhu had found Lin Yi's hiding place by sheer luck. It wasn't a thorough investigation and search, but they couldn't say that out loud right now. After all, Boss Zhu had done a good job, and Guanyin and Zhao Qibing would be proud of it. After all, Boss Zhu was one of their men. Good, very good. I'll go tell Elder Bai and Father right now. You've done a great job, Elder Zhu. Guanyin said happily. I'm just doing things for the young head and Master Bing. It's not a great job. Boss Zhu said, quickly. Old Zhao and Elder Bai were overjoyed when they heard the news. They quickly told Guanyin to contact the masters of the Hidden House Yu and House Yu to gather at House Zhao. They'd go after Lin Yi together. This time, they couldn't let Lin Yi get away. Grandma Sun's in-law's house. Lin Yi realized that the medicine Meng Yao gave him every day was quite effective in expelling the fire poison. With the medicine, Lin Yi's speed of expelling the poison was getting faster and faster. Now he only needed a little bit of the poison on his left leg to expel. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1840. After Meng Yao gave the medicine to Lin Yi, Lin Yi could clearly feel the last bit of fire poison in his feet being forced into the meridians of his right hand. At this moment, Lin Yi could clearly feel that his connection with the outside world had gotten tighter. He could wake up any time if he wanted to. Lin Yi was just about to return to the outside world from the jade space when Meng Yao said, Shoo, I'm going to take a shower. Help Lin Yi wipe his sweat. Okay. Yushu nodded. With that, Meng Yao started taking off her clothes. This made Lin Yi, who was about to wake up, slightly shocked. He didn't dare to wake up right away. Waking up at this time was awkward for everyone, including Big Missy and himself. Although he had seen Big Missy's body when he was detoxifying Big Missy's poison, that was under the premise that he was treating her. Now it was inevitable that he would feel a little embarrassed. Plus, Lin Yi was actually a little dirty in his heart. Before, because of the fire poison, Lin Yi didn't dare to look at Shu and Meng Yao taking off their clothes. Otherwise, Lin Yi's deviation would be even worse. But after so many days, these two young girls taking off their clothes and showering beside him every day, it was inevitable that Lin Yi would fantasize. Although Lin Yi wasn't a pervert under such temptation, if he didn't want to peek, then he'd really be a blockhead. So, even if Lin Yi had strong willpower, he still secretly used his perception to look at the miss. Take it off, take it off. Lin Yi felt like he was about to drool. Soon, the Miss upper body was only left with her bra. Lin Yi felt his breathing quickening. He thought to himself, Miss took it off herself for me to see. Pop-up window. I didn't peek. However, just as Missy was about to touch the button on her bra, a voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside the door. It was the sound of someone breaking open the courtyard door. Following that, a deep voice rang out. Junior Lin Yi, come out and accept your death. Meng Yao jumped in fright. He quickly put on the clothes he had taken off earlier and gave up on the idea of taking a bath. She and Shu looked at each other. Both of their expressions changed. They didn't expect this to happen. It still came, after hiding for so long. The enemy had finally found him. In actuality, Meng Yao and Yushu had been worried about being discovered by their enemies ever since the three of them became famous. They'd always been hoping that they'd be lucky. There was no other way for the two girls. It was already very difficult to find such a lucrative job. What should we do? Yushu's heart tightened. Without Ling Shan and Yu Tian's help, they wouldn't be able to bring Lin Yi out of here. I don't know. Let's wait and see. Meng Yao was panicking as well. But if she acted more panicked than Yushu, then Yushu wouldn't notice. Lin Yi was pissed. Which bastard came to seek revenge at this time? The miss was about to take off her bra, but they came. This was the first time Lin Yi had the urge to curse. It wasn't easy for him to do something dirty, but it was interrupted. One could imagine how Lin Yi felt. Standing outside the courtyard were Yu Lu from the Hidden House Yu, Yu San from the Hidden House Yu, and Zhao Guang'er from the Hidden House Zhao. With 3 Earth-class masters locked onto them, they weren't worried that Meng Yao and Yushu would escape. So, they didn't mind shouting outside the courtyard. Junior Lin Yi, come out and accept your death. Yu Lu said coldly, you got away last time, but it won't be so easy this time. Yu San, on the other hand, stood at the side and didn't say anything. He came here because of House Yu and House Zhao. If Lin Yi was really here, then he wouldn't mind helping Lin Yi. But if Lin Yi wasn't here, then he didn't want to lose face. An Earth class shouting in front of a commoner's house and making a mistake would be the biggest joke in the world. But Yu Lu was different. He came with a mission. He had to kill Lin Yi and get the Qi gathering pill. So he couldn't wait to speak up. Zhao Guang'er, on the other hand, was even more anxious than Yu Lu. He was here to kill them, but Yu Lu beat him to it. Not far from the three, there was an SUV with Kong Mingming, Zhao Qibing, and Yu Huixing in it. The three didn't have much to do with each other, but after killing Lin Yi, they wanted to see Lin Yi's miserable state, so they came. But Yu Huixing, an Earth-class early phase, was hiding in the SUV with them, not going out to fight Lin Yi. This made Kong Mingming and Zhao Qibing look down on him. Let's go out and see. Meng Yao was afraid that these people would hurt Grandma-san, so she pulled Yushu's hand and walked to the door quickly. These people were here for them and Lin Yi, and they couldn't let Grandma-san, who took them in, get hurt. Haha, they're here. Where's Lin Yi? Yu Lu saw Meng Yao and Yushu and was overjoyed. Why are you looking for him? We don't have any grudges with you. We've never even seen you before. Why are you chasing after us? Meng Yao was panicking, trying to think of a way to stall for time, but she realized that there was nothing she could do even if she tried. Of course I have a grudge with him. He's the one who destroyed the common house Yu, right? I'm representing the hidden house Yu, and I'm here to make him pay, Yu Lu said in a dignified manner. Naturally, he couldn't say that Lin Yi took the Qi gathering pill. The common house, you asked for it. What does it have to do with you? Meng Yao frowned. Besides, as far as I know, the hidden noble houses can't interfere with the common noble house's business, right? You're taking revenge for them. So where did that come from? Meng Yao had followed Lin Yi and Qintian, and she knew quite a lot about the rules of the noble houses. Yushu was from the common house Qin, too, so she knew the rules even better. Humph. Enough with the bullshit. Where's Lin Yi? Yu Lu, naturally, didn't bother arguing with Meng Yao anymore, only humping coldly. Hand over, Lin Yi. I won't hurt you two girls, or I won't go easy on you. Lin Yi's in the hospital. He's not here. Meng Yao said, suddenly thinking of something. He's going crazy with his training. We sent him to the hospital. Sent to the hospital? Yu Lu paused. Don't listen to her. Lin Yi's here. Guang'er, who'd been silent all this time, spoke up. They even bought medicine for Lin Yi earlier. So let's not waste time with them. Let's kill these two girls first, and then we'll go find Lin Yi. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1841. Nothing happened. Zhao Guanger's goal was to silence them. He didn't mind killing a few more people. As long as it was someone close to Lin Yi, they might know the truth. Meng Yao and Yushu didn't know what was good for them, so he killed them as well. He wasn't from the hidden house Yu, and he didn't have those taboos. Woof, woof. General Wei Wu saw the killing intent in Zhao Guanger's eyes and jumped in front of Meng Yao, ready to protect her and Shu. However, it wasn't strong enough. It was only a mystic late-phase peak. Although some offensive types of spirit beasts could fight against practitioners of higher levels, General Wei Wu was just an ancient spirit beast transformed from a normal dog. It naturally didn't have that kind of power. Mystic class spirit beast? Not bad, I want it. Yu Shi-san spoke up as well. He was from the hidden house Yu, and they had a close relationship with the heavenly elixir sect. He knew the importance of ancient spirit beasts in elixir making. If the flesh and blood of an ancient spirit beast were to be melted into elixirs, there would be a lot of unexpected effects. If this ancient spirit beast was lucky enough to form an essence pill, then it would be a top-grade elixir making elixir. Therefore, when he saw General Wei Wu, he wanted to keep this dog for himself. Of course, Yu Lu and Zhao Guanger had their own goals for coming here. They didn't care about a dog, and if Yu Shi-san wanted it, then he'd give it to him. Their goals were more important. In the SUV, the others were fine, but Yu Huixing's face froze when he saw General Wei Wu. He was too familiar with this dog. In the tomb, it was this dog that chased away the spirit beast guarding the tomb. Furthermore, Yu Huixing was a meticulous person who was afraid of death. He remembered every single person or thing that could pose a threat to him. He wasn't like an ordinary person who might not be able to recognize the difference between a dog and a dog, or who might have seen it before. After all, most animals were the same in the eyes of humans. Just like chickens, ducks, cows, and goats, they were the same in the eyes of humans. It was just that Yu Huixing was more careful. Of course, it was only when Yu Shi-san called out Mystic Class Spirit Beast that Yu Huixing remembered the Mystic Class dog beside the male thief in the tomb. But why was this dog here? Yu Huixing frowned. Male thief, Lin Yi, could it be? A bold thought flashed through Yu Huixing's mind. Lin Yi was the male thief, and the male thief was Lin Yi? Just how similar was the male thief's body to Lin Yi's? Yu Huixing was very excited. He finally understood why Yu Bing admitted that Lin Yi had entered the tomb and had a qi-gathering pill with him when Yu Shaoqin asked him. At the time, Shaoqin had said that he'd ask Yu Bing in a vague manner, and perhaps because of that Yu Bing misunderstood, thinking that Shaoqin already knew the truth, and that Shaoqin misunderstood even more, resulting in the current situation. At this thought, Yu Huixing really wanted to throw his head back and laugh. Even the heavens were helping him. Lin Yi really had a qi-amassing pill. He really was a star of prophecy. To think that his random words would actually hit the nail on the head. What are you laughing at? Qibing looked at the giggling Yu Huixing and asked, confused. No, nothing. Yu Huixing quickly retracted his smile. He couldn't let Qibing see through him. He said awkwardly, I'm just laughing. Lin Yi, that brat, is about to die. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Qibing thought that Yu Huixing was talking about the pill being kept a secret, and so he gave him a knowing look and nodded. Kong Mingming, on the other hand, didn't know what was going on, but he knew that he was just a small house Kong. Although he had the support of House Yu, he wasn't on the same level as Yu Huixing and Zhao Qibing. He could only watch silently as Lin Yi fell. All right, Lil, you take care of that dog. I'll take care of these two girls first. Lil, you go look for Lin Yi inside. Guang evidently wanted to kill everyone here, leaving no one alive. Yu Lu frowned slightly. He remembered what the head of the house told him, to not harm the people around Lin Yi. Yu Lu didn't know why, but he wanted to remind Zhao Guanger, but when he thought of the difference in strength between him and Zhao Guanger, he didn't stop him. After all, according to the division of strength, Zhao Guanger was undoubtedly the strongest. He had the strength of an Earth-class late phase, Yu Lu and San, on the other hand, were only Earth class mid-phase. Are you looking for me? There's no need to look inside, I've come out myself. A flash of shock passed through Lin Yi's eyes. He didn't think that the three people in front of him were all Earth class, and one of them was even an Earth class late phase. This made Lin Yi, who had just recovered, feel his heart clench. Even if he compressed a pure chi bomb, he might not be able to deal with the three people in front of him. Besides, 3 pure chi bombs would take up a lot of time. Lin Yi had already lost to San last time, so Lin Yi naturally wouldn't make the same mistake. But Lin Yi could walk out calmly and face 3 masters at his doorstep. Lin Yi naturally wasn't an idiot. In Lin Yi's heart, there was an even crazier thought. Lin Yi, you're fine? Zhao Guang'er looked at Lin Yi, a little shocked. Zhao Guang'er had heard from Zhao Qibing that Lin Yi was an expert in deceiving people. Every time he lost his strength, he would lure the enemy to his doorstep and kill them one by one, saving him a lot of trouble. Zhao Qibing even suspected that Lin Yi was too lazy to look for the enemy himself. So he used this method to lure the enemy to his doorstep and then kill them one by one, saving him a lot of trouble. Of course, at this moment, although Zhao Guang'er was suspicious, he wasn't the slightest bit afraid. In his view, Lin Yi was just a master in the early phase of the Earth class. Even if he had a breakthrough, the peak of the early phase of the Earth class was the limit. No matter how powerful he was, he would only be in the middle phase of the Earth class. On his side, there were 3 Earth class masters, 1 late phase and 2 mid-phase. This combination was enough to kill any cultivator below the late phase of the Earth class with ease. Of course I'm fine. Lin Yi looked at the 3 people in front of him and smiled faintly. Lin Yi's answer, on the other hand, made Zhao Guang'er and the others a little surprised. What did this mean? Of course he was fine? That meant that he was waiting here, waiting for them to find trouble with him? Don't listen to his bullshit. When I found him, he was unconscious. These 2 girls hid him here. If he was really fine, he would have returned to the villa long ago. Why would he still be here? Yu Lu directly exposed Lin Yi's lie. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1842. No one left. Lin Yi sighed inwardly. It seemed like he had to take the risk, after all. He wanted to trick these people into leaving with words, but he didn't expect these 3 to be that easy to fool. Not all Earth-class masters were as cowardly as Yu Huixing. Full. Lin Yi activated the 2nd stage of the art of dragon mastery, and the strength of an early stage Earth class was displayed in front of the 3. Early stage Earth class? Zhao Guang'er was stunned for a moment, then he laughed out loud. Do you think you can beat any one of us with your meager strength? I think you'd better surrender, and I'll give you a quick death. Wait, Yu Lu was afraid that Guang'er would kill Lin Yi right away. Where would he get the chi-gathering pill? He quickly said, Lin Yi, hand over the thing you took from Yu Huixing in the tomb, and I'll let the 2 girls go. I only want the dog, Yu San said coldly. Are you 3 retarded? Lin Yi suddenly grinned and looked at the 3 Earth-class masters standing not too far away. Each of them was stronger than him, but Lin Yi looked at them with disdain. Yes, disdain. We haven't even decided who's better, and you're already dividing the spoils. Is there even a need to divide? An early Earth-class junior. Zhao Guang'er laughed arrogantly. 1 move, Lin Yi said faintly. What? Zhao Guang'er paused. He didn't quite understand what Lin Yi was saying. Guang'er didn't hear it clearly, but Qibing and the others heard Lin Yi's words through the listening devices on them. Qibing laughed. Is this Lin Yi an idiot? 1 move? Does he think everyone in front of him is a mystic? He's overestimating himself. Yeah, I think he's the one who's 1 move. Kong Mingming added. He knew that Zhao Qibing was from the hidden house Zhao, so he tried his best to please him. After all, Donghai was the territory of the hidden Zhao family. Although the Hidden Yu family was the Kong family's backer, it was too far away. If they could get the support of the Hidden Zhao family, then the Kong family would be even more powerful. Only Yu Huixing's face twitched a couple of times as he felt a chill in his heart. When he remembered that Lin Yi was the male thief, he naturally felt a sense of fear in his heart. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. As he spoke, he slowly raised his right hand above his head, and the second level of the art of dragon mastery was abruptly pushed to its limit. What do you mean? You want to surrender? Yu Lu didn't understand what Lin Yi was doing, but no matter what, Lin Yi's strength was only at the early phase of the Earth class. This was why he was confident that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. There are 2 hands to surrender. Why are you raising one? Lin Yi didn't bother with Guang'er and Yu Lu. His eyes flashed as he raised his right hand and pushed it towards the 3. In an instant, a strong wave of heat rushed towards Guang'er, Yu Lu, and Yu Shi-san. The strong red air current brought with it the power to destroy the world, crashing towards the 3's heads. At this moment, a trace of fear flashed across Zhao Guang'er's eyes. He shouted, "Not good, run." "Haha." Lin Yi let out a long laugh. It was too late for him to run now. Lin Yi didn't think that he'd actually succeeded. He'd actually succeeded. The second level of the art of dragon mastery wrapped around the fire poison qi and was released by Lin Yi. Under the guidance of the second level of the art of dragon mastery, the fire poison qi followed Lin Yi's will and formed a red mist above the heads of the 3 Earth class masters. The mist was so wide that it completely covered their escape routes. By the time Zhao Guang'er realized that something was wrong, it was already too late for him to escape. He had been too confident before and didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes at all. He was caught off guard by Lin Yi's move. He wanted to retreat, but the moment his brain gave the command to his legs, the red mist seemed to have come alive, wrapping around his body. Guang'er screamed. This was the last sound he'd ever make in his life, and in the next moment his body turned into ashes. If Zhao Guang'er was like this, then Yu Lu and Yu Shi-san were naturally not much better off. Before the 2 of them could even react, they were already enveloped by the fire poison qi and turned into wisps of green smoke, disappearing into the wind. This move was something that Lin Yi had thought of on the spur of the moment. He'd used it with the attitude that he'd succeed or die trying, because he had no other choice. Using his normal strength to fight 2 Earth-class masters and 1 Earth-class master in the late stage would only lead to death. Lin Yi wasn't that stupid. Using his qi to guide the fire poison qi to attack Guang'er, Yu Lu, and Yu Shi-san was something that Lin Yi had learned from Rock Candy. Sky-class masters could control and release qi outside of their bodies and use it to transmit sound. Since qi could record sound, could it also record one's own will? Therefore, Lin Yi had set up an attack route for his qi in advance, letting it guide the fire poison qi to attack Guang'er, Yu Lu, and Yu Shi-san. First, it would turn into a red mist, and then it would wrap around the 3's bodies one by one, inflicting heavy damage on them. However, Lin Yi only wanted to inflict heavy damage on the 3. As for the 3 of them being vaporized into ashes, Lin Yi hadn't expected that the fire poison qi would be so overbearing that it could turn 3 Earth-class masters into ashes in an instant. Seeing this strange phenomenon, Lin Yi felt a deep sense of lingering fear. He was so lucky that he didn't die from qi deviation. In fact, although Zhao Guang'er, Yu Lu, and Yu Shi-san were all Earth-class experts, none of them cultivated a fire-based mental cultivation technique. If any of them cultivated a fire-based mental cultivation technique, they wouldn't have been burned to death so easily. Unfortunately, Yu Shi-san was only an expert from the Yu family and not an alchemist. What made Lin Yi excited was that he could indeed control the route of the qi he released. In fact, Lin Yi could vaguely feel that although he had set the route of the qi, he could still maintain a certain connection with the qi outside of his body. It was a mysterious feeling, but the battle ended in an instant. Lin, he didn't carefully think about it or feel it. Damn, where are these 3 people? Why are they all gone? Shield Bro showed his power again and vaporized them. Yushu said in surprise as she stared blankly at the red mist formed by the fire-poisoned chi that was slowly dissipating. Not far in front, there was no one left. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1843. She forgot Mingao had a vague idea of what was going on, but she was stunned by the scene in front of her. In an instant, 3 masters were burned to ashes by Lin Yi. Was this for real? In the car, Zhao Qibing, who had been bragging a moment ago, saw the 3 Earth class disappear in front of him. His voice stopped abruptly. Kong Mingming, on the other hand, was stunned as well. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. 1 move? Really 1 move. 3 Earth class, gone just like that? Kong Mingming couldn't believe it. That Lin Yi who was beaten up by right Sher-san and had his teeth all over his body. How did he become so strong all of a sudden? Quick, run. Yu Huixing spat out 2 words with difficulty. He was so scared that he almost lost control of his bowels. Was this guy even human? He killed 3 Earth-class masters in 1 move, and one of them was an Earth-class late phase. Could it be that Lin Yi had broken through to Sky Class and was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Yu Huixing's words woke Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming from their stupor. This car belonged to House Zhao, and the driver was Zhao Guang. Now that there was no driver, Zhao Qibing scrambled to the driver's seat and started the car. He stepped on the gas pedal and drove away from this terrifying place. Phew! Yu Huixing felt that Lin Yi didn't notice the car and didn't chase after them. He let out a long sigh of relief. He was lucky that he didn't go for revenge stupidly. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. Yu Huixing was an Earth class, but he couldn't tell what technique Lin Yi used. With a flip of his hand, he formed a red mist that covered the sky and turned people into ashes in an instant. It was too creepy and scary. Kuin! Kuin nodded. Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming were scared out of their wits as well. 3 Earth-class masters. In their eyes, they were invincible existences, but they couldn't even take 1 hit from Lin Yi. And now, Qibing finally believed Qikuin's words. Lin Yi, this guy, would make a bunch of enemies every once in a while, and when he wanted to cause trouble, it was too troublesome. So he'd pretend to be injured or lose his strength, waiting for his enemies to come knocking on his door, and then kill them one by one. Zhao Qibing shuddered at the thought. This was too sinister. This guy was addicted to pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Next time, I won't fall for it. Whoever goes again is a fool, a big fool. Kong Mingming cursed in his heart as well. If he'd known that Lin Yi was this strong, he wouldn't have asked Yu Shi-san to cause trouble for Lin Yi. Now, he didn't know if the hidden house you would send any more masters over. Let's go back. Lin Yi won, but he still had lingering fears. Even if there was a small mistake, he wouldn't be able to kill them in 1 hit. Of course, this result was far beyond Lin Yi's expectations. Lin Yi didn't even think about burning all 3 of them to ashes. From Lin Yi's perspective, it was a waste to force the fire poison out of the body, so he might as well make use of it and use it like a chi bomb. Even if it wasn't as powerful as a chi bomb, it would still be enough to heavily injure them. As long as he did that, he'd have a chance to escape. But he didn't think that it would be so thorough, and the 3 of them disappeared. But what Lin Yi didn't know was that it was the fire poison from the 2nd stage of the art of dragon mastery. Even the ice spirit fruit couldn't completely suppress it, and normal people who went crazy didn't need to force the fire poison out of their bodies at all after eating the fruit. Shield Bro, where are they? Yushu blinked. They've turned to ashes. Lin Yi pointed at the fine particles on the ground that hadn't been blown away by the wind. Holy shit, Shield Bro, you're too amazing. You can even use a fire attack. Yushu exclaimed. Huh. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Only Lin Yi knew that this type of attack could only be used once. Could he go crazy again and force out so much fire poison? This time it was a complete coincidence. Luckily, the 3 Earth-class masters stood together and let him hit them. Otherwise, even if Lin Yi was lucky enough to burn 2 of them, the third would be even harder to deal with. Grandma Sun looked at Lin Yi stunned. She rubbed her eyes and frowned. She seemed to remember something, but it wasn't clear. "Grandma, let's go back," Meng Yao said as she looked around. It was evening, and there was no one else in the alleyway. She let out a sigh of relief. Lin Yi's move had been completed in an instant, or else the 3 Earth-class masters wouldn't have been able to escape. Oh. Grandma Sun came back to her senses after hearing Meng Yao's call. She quickly followed Meng Yao back to the yard. Yushu quickly locked the door. She was thinking about how to explain what happened before to Grandma Sun, so that Grandma Sun would keep it a secret and wouldn't tell anyone. Looking at the unharmed Lin Yi in front of her, Meng Yao felt like she was dreaming. Is it over? Is everything over? Shield bro, you're really awake? That's great. I don't have to pick up trash anymore. Yushu looked at Lin Yi and screamed excitedly. You always wake up at the critical moment and kill everyone. You're so awesome. Haha, it's not the critical moment. I actually woke up a while ago. Lin Yi said with a smile, but something wasn't right. As expected, Meng Yao's face darkened just now. Ugh, I didn't see you take off your clothes. Lin Yi said. Huh. Meng Yao's face darkened even more. You took off half of it, and the 3 guys at the door interrupted you, so you put them back on. Lin Yi had to think of a way to make up for it. Oh, I know, that's why Shield Bro was so angry and burned those 3 guys to death. Yushu nodded. That's right. Lin Yi nodded. Lin Yi. Meng Yao raised her fist at Lin Yi. I'm not done with you. Ugh. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He'd just woken up, and his mind wasn't working properly yet. Yushu's words had him spilling the truth out, and Lin Yi regretted it. All right, Yao Yao. You're Shield Bro's main wife anyway. With that, Yushu winked at Meng Yao before turning back to Lin Yi. Shield Bro, have you forgotten about the past? Let me remind you, Yao Yao is your main wife, and I'm your small wife. Question mark. Lin Yi looked at Yushu, strangely. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1844. Chapter 1856. Invitation. Were your first and second wives, Yushu said with a serious face. I've forgotten what happened before. What did I forget? Shu, are you scared out of your wits? Lin Yi looked at Yushu, not sure what she was up to this time. Ugh. Yushu looked at Lin Yi. He didn't look like he'd lost his memory, so she asked, then, Who's your girlfriend? Girlfriend? Lin Yi blinked, a flash of confusion in his eyes. He wanted to say a name, but the name seemed to be right at the tip of his tongue. Could it be that he'd just woken up, and his brain wasn't working yet? But after a moment's thought, Lin Yi thought of the name. It's Feng Xiaoxiao. Didn't she go to the ice palace to train? Why'd you ask that all of a sudden? However, he felt that something wasn't quite right after he said that, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what exactly was wrong. Feng Xiaoxiao. Shu couldn't help but realize that Lin Yi only forgot about Tang Yin, but he knew everything else besides Tang Yin. Yushu had wanted to lie about Meng Yao being his first wife, but it didn't seem like that was going to work. Meng Yao blinked at Yushu, telling her to stop meddling. It seemed like Lin Yi had really forgotten about Tang Yin. It's nothing. Shu's always been a little paranoid. You know that. Meng Yao glared at Lin Yi. He'd have woken up a long time ago if she wanted to deal with him in the future. Why didn't he say anything? Peeping Tom. But, as she cursed in her heart, Meng Yao had a weird feeling. She was even blaming those 3 for being so nosy, showing up at this time. What would have happened if they hadn't shown up? Had Lin Yi seen her? Why would he do that? Did he like her? Meng Yao couldn't help but worry at the thought. Grandma Sun, thank you for taking care of me these days. Lin Yi turned around and respectfully thanked Grandma Sunday, little miracle-working doctor. You're treating me like an outsider. My old illness has been cured by you for many years. I should be the one thanking you." Grandma's son quickly waved her hand and said, "As for taking me in, it's just a coincidence that I'm grateful. This is also God's arrangement." "How do you know she is Grandma's son? Have you been sober these days?" Meng Yao wasn't stupid. She thought of something after listening to Lin Yi's words. Her face reddened as she glared at Lin Yi. "Of course not. I could only hear your voices before. I only woke up after Yao Yao gave me the medicine," Lin Yi quickly explained. As for using his perception to see the outside world, Lin Yi hid it. If he told the truth, the miss would probably be furious. "Humph." The miss snorted. She didn't believe Lin Yi's words completely, but she didn't question it either. "Grandma's son, what happened before?" Lin Yi looked at Grandma Sunday. He wanted to say something, but stopped. After all, the things that happened before were too shocking and strange for a normal person like Grandma Sunday. Lin Yi was afraid that Grandma's son would spread the news. "Just now, my eyes were playing tricks on me. I didn't see anything." Grandma's son shook her head and said, "You guys are not normal people. I won't cause you any trouble." Lin Yi nodded, but he was still a little surprised at Grandma's son's calmness. Those were 3 masters, and they disappeared just like that. However, he was afraid that Grandma's son wouldn't understand the meaning of masters. "Before school starts, we may still live here. Please forgive us for our intrusion. After school starts, we will move to Donghai. If you are interested, you can come with us to Donghai. At that time, the house will definitely be short of a housekeeper." Lin Yi felt that Grandma's son was a kind person after observing her for a while. It should be a good thing to keep such a person by his side. When they go to Donghai, Faubert wouldn't be able to help with the housework like he was doing now. These things would eventually fall to Lin Yi, and Lin Yi couldn't guarantee that he would always be at home, so having a housekeeper was the best thing. Meng Yao was a little surprised. She didn't expect Lin Yi to invite her, but she immediately understood what Lin Yi meant. She snorted and said, "Lazy." "You said it. We're good friends now. I'm not a follower, nanny, and bodyguard anymore." Lin Yi smiled. "Okay, this is what you said. The living expenses of the family will fall on you. We don't have money to pay Grandma's salary anymore." Meng Yao couldn't help but laugh at herself. She was right. What right did she have to ask Lin Yi for? She was no longer the miss she used to be. "You guys are too polite. If you don't mind me, I'll go with you. As for the salary, it doesn't matter. As long as you give me food to eat, it's fine." Grandma's son said cheerfully. She had no children. She was alone. She could go anywhere. Besides, she could see that the 3 of them weren't bad people. She had always been grateful to Lin Yi for saving her. "Huh. Okay, but I'll still pay you." Lin Yi was full of confidence when he said this. Although Lin Yi couldn't use the fire poison chi from before, this move alone was enough to scare off all the hidden houses that had ulterior motives towards him. At least in the short term, Lin Yi wouldn't have any more trouble. As long as Lin Yi had a chance to breathe, he would be able to take back everything that he had lost. The only thing that Lin Yi regretted was that other than the fire poison chi, the deviation didn't bring any benefits to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't break through either. He was still at the early phase of Earth class. Hidden House Xiao, Zhao Qibing, Kong Mingming, and Yu Huixing sat in the meeting room. Their faces were full of fear. The 3 of them ran back like stray dogs. House Xiao was shocked, but they didn't dare to be careless. Zhao Qibing kept repeating the same thing. "Dead, all dead. What happened? What happened? Why did you all run back?" The old man of House Xiao didn't participate in the family meetings anymore. He usually let Elder Bai take care of things, but this time he sat in the main seat himself, with Elder Bai and Guanyin on his left and right. Yu Huixing was a coward, but he was still an early phase of Earth class. His mentality wasn't something Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming could compare to. Target equals __blank. Chapter 1845. Once bitten, twice shy. Elder Zhao earlier. That Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move. Yu Huixing explained what he saw to Elder Zhao, but Yu Huixing was too far away, and he couldn't see the details. He could only describe what happened according to his own understanding. What? One move? Elder Zhao's face was full of shock, as if there was something wrong with his ears. That Lin Yi, wasn't he possessed? How could he kill 3 Earth-class masters with one move? Plus, Zhao Guang'er is an Earth-class late phase. How would I know? Yu Huixing smiled bitterly. Elder Zhao, that Lin Yi is an expert at pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. It's not a secret anymore. He used to pretend to be injured to lure his enemies in for revenge, and every time his enemies would return with heavy losses. According to my observations, Lin Yi must have learned some kind of powerful technique, or his strength has reached the peak of the Earth-class late phase. Elder Zhao's eyes widened, feeling like his brain wasn't enough to process all of this. He looked at Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming. You guys were nearby. Yu Huixing, is what you said true? It was an extremely rude question, but Elder Zhao was a sky class now, so Yu Huixing didn't dare voice his dissatisfaction. Grandpa, I wasn't far from there. Mr. Yu Huixing's words are all true. It really was one move, and that Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters. Qibing's eyes flashed with fear at this point. Evidently, the scene had left a deep impression on him. If you don't believe me, Grandpa, the car's camera recorded everything from afar. With Qibing's confirmation, Elder Zhao knew that there were no more delusions. Lin Yi really did kill 3 Earth-class masters. Grandpa Zhao's heart was bleeding. He didn't care about the others, but Zhao Guang'er was an Earth-class late-phase master, a pillar of the Zhao family. How could he die just like that? From Elder Zhao's perspective, other than Elder Bai and Zhao Guangyin, Zhao Guang'er was one of the future sky-class masters of House Zhao, but now, if they had known that Lin Yi was this strong, why would they even bother messing with him? Grandpa, I've said it before, that Lin Yi's a wolf in sheep's clothing. But Qikuan was gloating inwardly. Lin Yi was fine, and he was showing off his prowess. House Zhao had lost a master, but it didn't matter. As long as he took control of House Zhao with Lin Yi's support, House Zhao would still be one of the top few hidden houses. Elder Zhao looked at Qikuan, a light flashing in his eyes. Qikuan felt a chill in his heart, but he still acted like he was in the right, not backing down. After a while, Elder Zhao nodded. Qikuan's right. Out of all of us, only Qikuan has fought with Lin Yi in the Ice Palace's test. He knows what Lin Yi is capable of. If we had listened to Qikuan, we wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. Qikuan was a bit dejected. He had been hoping to use House Zhao's power for revenge, but now it seemed that Lin Yi was already the strongest under Sky Class. He killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move, one of which was an Earth-class late phase. Even an Earth-class late phase peak wouldn't be able to do that, but Lin Yi had done it. If he wasn't the strongest under Sky Class, then what was he? It seemed that unless his grandpa did it himself, who else could touch Lin Yi? But although the Hidden Noble House Association only existed in name and couldn't do anything to the Hidden Noble Houses, there were still the ancient sects above the Hidden Noble Houses. The ancient sects wouldn't allow Sky-class masters to interfere with the common world. This was the agreement between the ancient sects, although the Hidden Noble Houses weren't the ancient sects. If the ancient sects followed the agreement, then what were the Hidden Noble Houses? It's fine, we'll learn from our mistakes. That Lin Yi likes to act weak, so let's not mess with him for now. Elder Zhao said that, but he had no other choice. If he could, he would have just killed Lin Yi, but that wasn't possible. Qibing, for this period of time, go back to the family and train. Don't interfere with Lin Yi's matter. Elder Bai agreed. If Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move, then even Elder Bai, an Earth-class late-phase peak, Wouldn't dare say that he could kill Lin Yi. Yes, Qi Bing said helplessly. Yu Huixing, Kong Mingming, we House Xiao won't interfere with Lin Yi's business for now. Whether or not your houses continue to be enemies with Lin Yi, that's your business. Elder Zhao said decisively. All right, Elder Zhao. I'll be going back to report to the head as well. Yu Huixing smiled bitterly. He knew that there was no hope for revenge from Lin Yi now. He killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move. Shuixing's death wasn't in vain. I'll be leaving too. Elder Zhao, farewell. Kong Mingming was even more dejected. House Zhao wasn't going to interfere, and House Yu seemed to have given up as well. What right did House Kong have to go against Lin Yi? As House Zhao carefully studied Lin Yi, Lin Yi had already brought Meng Yao and Yu Shu to Songshan's First People's Hospital. The worried Faubert stood up when he saw Lin Yi, excited as if he'd been injected with chicken blood. You're done? I'm done. Lin Yi nodded heavily and turned to Faubert. Thank you for worrying about me these days. Faubert paused. He understood immediately that Lin Yi was referring to Peng Zhan's bankruptcy, the fact that Faubert still stayed by Peng Zhan's side despite the risk of enemies. Lin Yi naturally was grateful for this, but Faubert didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mr. Chu and I have been friends for more than 10 years. You're treating me like an outsider. That's true, Lin Yi nodded. He'd only known the miss for half a year, and in terms of time, Faubert was a lot longer than him. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. I'll go see Uncle Chu. Okay. Faubert quickly stepped aside and invited Lin Yi into the ICU. How is it, Lin Yi, can you save Dad? Meng Yao knew that Lin Yi had a 90% chance of doing something, but she was still worried about her father's safety. It's not a big problem. Lin Yi looked at Peng Zhan's condition. As long as he's still breathing, he'll be fine. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1846. Span class equals edit _font _normal. Chapter 1858 something is definitely wrong. Span class equals edit _font _normal. After the eldest miss heard this, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, she still laughed and said, Is there anyone who speaks like that? Then why don't you hurry and save Daddy? Span class equals edit _font _normal. Yes. Lin Yi didn't think there was anything wrong with the missed tone of command. It was all thanks to her taking care of him all this time. Just based on this kindness alone, Lin Yi would do his best. Even if Peng Zhan was in big trouble, he would do his best. Span class equals edit _font _normal. Sometimes. Lin Yi even felt that he had a tendency to be the underdog. Or was it because he was used to eldest Mrs. Cold on the outside but warm on the inside? Or perhaps he liked her a little? Lin Yi was shocked by this thought. Span class equals edit _font _normal. However, this was not the time to think about these things. There were more important things to do. Span class equals edit _font _normal. Lin Yi pulled out all the tubes and wires from Peng Zhan's body. Faubert, sweating profusely. Meng Yao and Yu Shu, however, trusted Lin Yi without a shred of doubt. Faubert wondered if he was being too cautious because of his age. He had experienced Lin Yi's miraculousness a few times. Span class equals edit _font _normal. Holding on to Peng Zhan's pulse, Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before activating the first stage of the art of dragon mastery. Lin Yi had no idea if the second stage of the art of dragon mastery could heal, or if there were any side effects. He was already very familiar with the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, and Lin Yi decided not to do anything he wasn't confident in. Span class equals edit _font _normal. The damaged parts of Peng Zhan's body were recovering rapidly under Lin Yi's universal qi, but Peng Zhan's injuries were too severe. It wasn't something that could be healed in a short amount of time. Lin Yi entered the jade space and used his old method of healing Peng Zhan's wounds without wasting his own qi. Spanspen class equals edit Mingyao. Yu Shu and Faubert, on the other hand, didn't blink as they waited at the side, afraid that they'd disturb Lin Yi. Spanspen class equals edit normal. The night passed in the blink of an eye, and when the first glimmer of light appeared in the sky, Lin Yi let go of Peng Zhan's pulse and sighed faintly. All right, there's no more problem. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Peng Zhan's injuries were a result of a car accident, and he didn't have any other symptoms. As long as he used his qi to heal them, there wouldn't be any other problems. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Peng Zhan woke up as he spoke, looking at everyone in the room in a daze. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. What happened to me? Peng Zhan didn't have any recollection of what happened before the car accident. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Mr. Chu, are you all right? Faubert was overjoyed. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Daddy, it's finally over. Mengyao was very emotional when she saw Peng Zhan wake up. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Why am I in the hospital? Peng Zhan didn't know what was going on, and he was even more surprised when he saw that Lin Yi was fine. Didn't Lin Yi go berserk? How did he recover? Could he have recovered? Why was he in the hospital? Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Peng Zhan's words stunned everyone in the room. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Mr. Chu, you lost your memory? Faubert asked subconsciously. It was the only explanation. Why else would Peng Zhan ask such a question? Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Memory loss? Why would I lose my memory? Peng Zhan asked, confused. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Didn't you commit suicide and end up in the hospital? Faubert was confused. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. I committed suicide? Why would I commit suicide? Peng Zhan was even more confused. I'm alive and well. My body is healthy. My daughter is beautiful. And Lil Yi is such a good junior, and a friend like you, Li Fu. Why would I commit suicide? Spanspen class equals edit font normal. But your company's bankrupt. Li Fu said. Had Peng Zhan really lost his memory? Did he even forget about the company's bankruptcy? Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Even if I went bankrupt, I wouldn't commit suicide. Peng Zhan frowned. My father went bankrupt when he was young, too. It's normal for people to experience ups and downs in life. Why would I commit suicide? Spanspen class equals edit font normal. But Faubert wanted to ask something else, but Lin Yi interrupted him. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Uncle Chu, you're saying you didn't commit suicide? Lin Yi's sharp senses told him that something wasn't right. He hadn't asked Peng Zhan about the details of the company's bankruptcy, but according to his impression of Peng Zhan wasn't the kind of person who would let a company go bankrupt, and he definitely wasn't the kind of person who would commit suicide after going bankrupt. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Peng Zhan had been struggling against Guangbua, Jin Gubong, and the others back then, but now he was committing suicide? Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Of course not. Peng Zhan shook his head. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Faubert and Mengyao looked at each other, surprised and doubtful. If Peng Zhan didn't commit suicide, then the car accident earlier, Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Lin Yi shrugged and looked at Mengyao and Faubert, asking them to explain, since Lin Yi didn't know the details. Spanspen class equals edit font normal. Mengyao took out her phone and played Jiang Wen's explanation to Peng Zhan. Faubert, on the other hand, took out the traffic accident certificate stating that Pingzhan was the one who walked into the car on his own. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. Yao Yao's right. I did invest willingly. Pingzhan nodded slowly, but after nodding, a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. But why did I do that? There's no reason. Why would I do that? Spanspan class equals edit underscore font. Mr. Chu, I tried to talk you out of it, but maybe you were blinded by money, that's why. Faubert sighed. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. No. Linny frowned. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. Something's wrong? Faubert and Meng Yao froze, and even Pingzhan looked at Lin Yi in surprise. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font normal. This video must have been spliced and some things were cut out. Lin Yi said, It's very detailed, but I have a friend who's a computer expert, and I've learned a thing or two from her. I can't do it, but I can tell. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. So, Jiang Wen's lying? Meng Yao paused, and anger flashed in her eyes. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. I don't know if he's lying, but he's definitely hiding something. Lin Yi said, Plus, Uncle Chu's attitude is completely different from before. Even if he's mad, it doesn't make sense. Plus, Uncle Chu said he didn't commit suicide, so there must be something hidden. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. That's right. Faubert listened to Lin Yi's analysis, and Pingzhan's denial of suicide after waking up made him feel that something was wrong. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. Jiang Wen? Leave it to me. Lin Yi said, I'll go take the company back. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. But we don't have proof. Faubert hesitated after listening to Lin Yi. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. Why do we need proof? Lin Yi shrugged and smiled. I just want the company back, not proof. Spanspan class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1847. Return of Property. Chapter 1859. Return of Property. Faubert paused and understood what Lin Yi meant. He looked at Lin Yi with respect and respect. Of course, if he had seen the scene just now, he would have been even more shocked. Only someone like that would be able to say such domineering words to kill 3 Earth-class, mid-phase masters in one move. Lin Yi left in peace. The news had probably spread already, and anyone who dared to cause trouble for Pingzhan and the miss now was either an idiot or someone who wasn't afraid of death. Of course, Lin Yi didn't expect one move to make all the hidden houses stop. It wasn't realistic. When they realized that Lin Yi was only an Earth-class early phase, they'd show their fangs again. But at least for now, they didn't dare. Lin Yi only needed to buy them some time. As long as he continued to practice the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, Lin Yi was confident that his strength would increase to another level. House, and this was Jiang Wen's villa. However, and Ming Yue, and Mingri, and Jianda, and Jiang Wen were all sitting in the living room. Something big had happened today, and as one of the 5 little houses, the members of the Firewolves, they were naturally the first to receive the news. Lin Yi didn't lose his mind, and instead showed off his prowess, killing 3 Earth-class masters in one move. One of them was even in Earth-class late phase. This time, House and is in danger. And Mingri said as he looked at Jiang Wen. He was more active than anyone when they took over Pingzhan's assets, but he was also the first to jump out when there was trouble. Jiang Wen, it's not that I want to criticize you, but making a move without understanding the situation will bring trouble to House and, if we're talking about trouble, Big Brother sending people to kill Pingzhan. Isn't that more troublesome? The assets are small, but lives are more important. Do you think Lin Yi will let this go after knowing about it? Jiang Wen looked at Jianda and smiled coldly. This is Haosen's problem, and we'll shoulder it together. Lin Yi has no proof, even if he refuses to admit it. But if someone leaks the news, haha, then we'll all die together. And Jianda's body shook. He hadn't fought with Lin Yi before, but he'd heard that Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move. That wasn't something he could compare to. So, after hearing Jiang Wen's words, and Jianda's eyes flashed with worry as he looked at his father, and Mingri sighed. He wanted to use this opportunity to attack Jiang Wen, but it seemed like everyone had a part in this. Plus, Jiang Wen was highly valued by the Firewolves, and even if they were to go against Lin Yi, with the Firewolves' protection, Jiang Wen would be fine. After all, the Firewolves had a Sky class, and no matter what, they could still protect Jiang Wen's life. But it was different for the others, and Jianda was the mastermind of the car accident. If Lin Yi knew the truth, he'd probably look for Jianda first. Okay, we'll all keep our mouths shut. Don't talk nonsense. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't let Lin Yi see through us. And Mingri said, Jiang Wen is right. As long as he doesn't have proof, he can't do anything to us. Who said that we can't do anything to you without evidence? A voice came from behind the crowd, startling everyone. Before, when they were discussing, they'd closed the doors and windows. How could there be another person in the living room without a sound? Plus, this voice was very familiar, and Jiang Wen knew who it was immediately. A trace of fear flashed across his face, but he smiled immediately. Ha! Isn't this brother Lin Yi? Uncle Chu's car accident was caused by you? Lin Yi ignored Jiang Wen and walked towards Jianda with big steps. A trace of fear flashed across Jianda's eyes. He shook his head. No, it's not me. Everyone knows that he crashed the car himself. There's the car recorder and the witness to testify. He said it was you who did it. I heard it all. Lin Yi raised his chin and pointed at Jiang Wen's direction. Don't listen to him. No, it was him who ordered it. He's the mastermind. He planned to embezzle House Chu's assets. And Jianda was a coward. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been doing the organ trading business. So honestly, Jiang Wen, on the other hand, directly kidnapped people to cut their kidneys. Oh, he can't run either. Lin Yi slapped Jianda's face. Do you know? I hate people like you who don't take responsibility the most. You did it, you did it. Why are you pushing it to others? And Jianda's face swelled up instantly. He was just a normal person. How could he be a match for an Earth class like Lin Yi? If Lin Yi wanted to kill him, one move would be enough, but Lin Yi didn't. Instead, he was torturing him. Lin Yi would return all the pain Pingzhan had suffered to Jianda. And so, before Jianda could say anything, Lin Yi kicked his crotch. Jianda's eyes bulged as he howled, his body curling up like a cooked lobster. Climax kick. This was the ultimate technique of Lin Yi's mistress. She'd tried it on Lin Yi's master before, but it didn't work. Lin Yi had learned it. However, this move was a bit more vicious. Lin Yi didn't usually use it, but against people like Jianda, Lin Yi only hoped to make him suffer a bit more. That way, he could make him pay for what he'd done to Pingzhan. You, what are you doing? And Mingri's eyes flashed with anger. But when he thought of Lin Yi's glorious battle record today, he didn't dare to do anything to Lin Yi. What do you mean? Trespassing? If you don't stop, I'm going to call the police. Oh, go ahead. I happened to record your conversation just now, Lin Yi said faintly, but his hands didn't stop for a second. He threw another heavy punch, knocking Jianda to the ground. And Mingri didn't expect Lin Yi to record. He was in a dilemma. Calling the police was just to scare Lin Yi, but the things Lin Yi had in his hands were disadvantageous to Haosen. If he called the police, Haosen would be in trouble. If you let him go, I'll return all of Pingzhan Industries' properties to you. And Mingyue sighed in her heart. The situation was hopeless. Haosen's efforts were in vain. It wasn't that Mingyue felt sorry for Jianda. The problem was that after Lin Yi dealt with Jianda, he'd definitely turn around and deal with other people. Instead of letting Lin Yi do it, Why not take the initiative to express goodwill? We'll settle the properties later. Lin Yi's foot landed on Njenda's spine, making a crisp sound. Even if Njenda didn't die from this stomp, he'd be crippled. Ouch! Njenda cried in pain. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1848. Overbearing Lin, you know the pain now, but it's still early. Lin Yi said calmly, Uncle Chu, your spine is broken, your internal organs are bleeding, and you have more than 20 broken bones. Your brain is severely injured, and there are many blood clots. I will help you create these injuries. Lin Yi, don't go overboard. And Mingri roared in grief and indignation. Is it too much? Why didn't he think it was too much when he asked someone to hit Uncle Chu? As Lin Yi spoke, he began to create injuries on Njenda's body. These injuries could only be caused by Lin Yi. Otherwise, even if Njenda was saved, he would be in a vegetative state. Jiang Wen's face twitched at the bloody scene in front of him. At first, he thought that he was ruthless enough, but now that he saw Lin Yi stepping on people expressionlessly, Jiang Wen realized that Lin Yi was the real demon. Of course, that was under the premise that he was provoked. Otherwise, the guy seemed harmless. All of Pingzhan's businesses, plus 1 billion. Jiang Wen stated his conditions. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape from Lin Yi's grasp. If even 3 Earth rank experts couldn't escape, then what did he have to do? And so, Jiang Wen gave him the condition to save his life. Is 1 billion a lot? Lin Yi turned to Jiang Wen, leaving the lifeless Njenda behind. I wasn't involved in the accident with Uncle Chu. I even gave Yao Yao 100,000 after the accident to help her with her medical expenses. Jiang Wen said, add another 2 billion to the offer. All right, give it to me. Lin Yi nodded expressionlessly, and Minghua sighed and went upstairs. All the documents were in the safe, but he didn't dare run. If he did, then Jiang Wen and Mingri and Njenda wouldn't be able to walk out of this room alive. Although Lin Yi looked very amiable on the outside, he had made Njenda look half human and half ghost just now. It was clear that the rumor of him killing 3 Earth-class experts with 1 move today was true. And Minghua took out the authorization documents and the share certificate, signed them one by one, and handed them to Lin Yi. He then made a phone call and transferred 2 billion to Lin Yi's account. Jiang Wen was rich, but giving away 2 billion was a huge blow to Haosen. The money Pingzhan had borrowed from them was completely fictitious and didn't exist at all. As a result, Haosen didn't get anything out of this at all, instead losing 2 billion. We've given you everything. Can you let us go now? Jiang Wen asked. The item was mine to begin with. Did I say I would let you go? Lin Yi asked calmly. You. Jiang Wen's face reddened. He was furious at Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi wanted to say something, but he frowned. At this moment, Lin Yi felt a strong aura approaching the villa. Earth-class late-phase peak. It was an enemy, not a friend. Lin Yi didn't even need to think to know that a master of this level was probably up to no good. The next moment, a man in black appeared in the living room of Haosen. He glanced at everyone present and didn't pay much attention to Njenda, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog. His eyes stopped on Lin Yi. You are Lin Yi? The man in black looked at Lin Yi and asked, You are? Lin Yi took a deep breath. He didn't expect to meet such a master here. You don't need to know my name. You just need to know that I'm here on orders from the Fire Wolves gang to protect Jiang Wen and his family. That's enough. The man in black didn't hide his strength at all. Earth-class late-phase peak was completely revealed. Huh. Lin Yi was shocked, but he smiled faintly. Lin Yi didn't use the art of dragon mastery. He didn't have any aura on him. Of course, Lin Yi did this on purpose. If he revealed his Earth-class early-phase strength now, the man would be even more fearless. I know you're strong. You can kill 3 Earth-class masters in 1 move. One of them was even late phase. The man in black looked at Lin Yi and smiled. He wasn't sure of Lin Yi's bottom line. However, I don't think you've reached sky class yet. Your strength is at most the same as mine. It'll be hard for you to stop them in front of me. Then what do you think? Lin Yi asked calmly. Lin Yi knew that the reason why an Earth-class late-phase peak could speak to him in such a polite tone was because of the effect of him killing 3 Earth-class masters in one move. But if he showed any fear now, then what awaited him would be a storm of attacks. You've heard of the Fire Wolves gang, right? The man in black asked. If you leave, then we'll be fine. If you insist on stopping Jiang Wen, you might be able to win against me by a stroke of luck. But what awaits you is the Fire Wolves gang's revenge. Make him break his own legs and I'll leave. Lin Yi pointed at Jiang Wen and said in an unquestionable tone. The man in black pondered and looked at Lin Yi. To be honest, the news that the Fire Wolves gang received couldn't be fake. Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters in one move. So the man in black couldn't be sure if he was a match for Lin Yi. If Lin Yi's skills were really that strong, then even if the man managed to win 1 or 2 moves, he'd pay a heavy price. So, after some hesitation, the man in black didn't say anything. He waved his hand, and Jiang Wen groaned in pain, kneeling on the ground. With Lin Yi's eyesight, he could tell that the man in black only broke Jiang Wen's leg. It was a small injury, but Lin Yi didn't dwell on it. Being able to make an Earth-class late-phase peak surrender was already a great achievement. Okay, goodbye. Lin Yi cupped his fist and walked out of the villa. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi didn't use qi. He walked out of the room like a normal person. Looking at Lin Yi's back, the man in black didn't stop him. His mission this time was to protect Jiang Wen's life. He'd already done it. Naturally, he wouldn't cause any more trouble. He really couldn't see through Lin Yi's strength. There was no need to make him an enemy. The man in black didn't need to worry about Lin Yi and Jiang Wen. Full. Lin Yi's aura made in Mingyue and in Mingri sweat. When Lin Yi left, they fell to the ground. Quick, send Jianda to the hospital. And Mingri suddenly remembered his son's safety and shouted, Target equals _blank. Chapter 1849. Lucky, escaped the man in black, walked quickly to Njianda's side and looked at his wounds. He shook his head. With this kind of injury, even if he recovers, he'll still be in a vegetative state. Unless he has the meridian opening pill and recovery pill from the Sky Elixir School, he won't be able to survive. After Mingri heard about the Sky Elixir sect, he became listless. What kind of existence was the Sky Elixir sect? Naturally, he knew that even the leader of the Fire Wolf gang was on the same level as them. Such a precious pill, if it was used on Jiang Wen, it might be possible, but if it was used on Njianda, it was absolutely impossible. Although Jiang Wen's leg was in pain, he could still endure it. He looked at Njianda, who was lying on the ground, and a strange figure flashed in his eyes. According to the professor, his senior brother is an expert in medicine, even better than the professor. Why don't we ask the professor's senior brother to help? Maybe he can save Big Brother's life? Okay, then I'll have to trouble you, nephew Jiang Wen. And Mingri said quickly. He knew how hard Lin Yi was, and Lin Yi was an expert in medicine. If he did it himself, Njianda wouldn't be able to live. But since there was a ray of hope, he had to grab it. Please bring my big brother back to the Firewolves. As for asking the professor's senior brother to help, I'll talk to him, Jiang Wen said to the man in black. Okay. The man in black wasn't Jiang Wen's follower, but he wouldn't reject a request like this. Even the leader wanted him to protect this person, so he must be someone the leader valued greatly. Maybe this person would be even more successful than him in the future. One had to know that in the Firewolf gang, it wasn't completely determined by strength. There were also strategists and doctors who did scientific research. These people's positions were all very high. The Firewolves gang was a gang, and although they were as strong as the ancient sects, they were still a gang. Their structure was different from the ancient sections. This medicine, Mr. Jangwen, please take it. It's good for your broken leg. The man in black was one of the guards of the leader, so naturally he had many kinds of medicine with him. One of them was to heal a broken leg. Thanks a lot. Jangwen took the medicine and swallowed it. In an instant, a cooling sensation spread through his entire body. His legs weren't as painful as before, and Jangwen's furrowed brows relaxed. Looking at Jangwen's face, and Mingri was extremely envious. He looked at his son and sighed in his heart. Hopefully, the professor's senior brother had a way. Lin Yi walked out of Jangwen's villa for a kilometer before letting out a sigh of relief when he saw that there was no one chasing him. He felt lucky. Today, at the family's villa, Lin Yi was purely relying on the power of killing 3 Earth-ranked masters today. The black-clothed man did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, perhaps Lin Yi would have been left there today. Revenge was taken. Pingzhan's assets were taken back, and he even got an extra 2 billion. This was a very fruitful result, and Lin Yi was very satisfied. As for Jangwen's life, he didn't mind taking it for now. With the Firewolves behind him, Lin Yi couldn't mess with them now. This was also the reason why Lin Yi didn't kill Jangwen every time he fought with him. But even so, Jangwen didn't gain any advantage. Not only did he lose a kidney, but he also gave Lin Yi a lot of money. This kind of money tree, it would be a waste for Lin Yi to kill him. But as for Njenda, Lin Yi didn't have anything to worry about. He could see that the Firewolves didn't value him much at all. Although he killed 3 Earth-class masters in one hit today, Lin Yi didn't let the victory get to his head. He knew his own strength, and it was already very difficult for him to fight against a hidden house, not to mention a huge monster like the Firewolves. Of the 3 Earth-class masters that appeared at the door today, Lin Yi knew one of them, and heard of the other one, but he didn't know who the strongest one was. Of course, now that he had turned into ashes, Lin Yi couldn't ask any more. Yu Lu, Meng Yao, and Yushu mentioned before, was the one who followed them that day. As for Right 13, Lin Yi had fought him before, and the only one Lin Yi didn't know was Zhao Guanger. Hidden House Yu and House Kong, Lin Yi sighed. All this while, Lin Yi didn't want to face the Hidden House Yu. He didn't want to face them head-on. Part of it was because of Yu Bing, but more of it Lin Yi knew very well. It was because of that girl, but now he destroyed the common House Yu, killed Yu Lu, and this grudge was formed. Although it wasn't an irreconcilable grudge, if Lin Yi couldn't find a way to resolve this grudge, then this grudge wouldn't be let go easily. As for House Kong, it was time for them to retaliate. The news of Lin Yi killing 3 Earth class spread like wildfire to every household in the city. Elder Lu Jinhu of the Lu family naturally beamed with joy. Lu Jinghan, on the other hand, looked at her embarrassed father and smiled without saying a word. Lu Tianyi, on the other hand, let out a long breath. Although he had his father's support, House Lu's entire fortune was placed on Lin Yi. This was too risky. Old Wu Gonggao and Old Sun, on the other hand, slapped their thighs in regret. If they'd known that Lin Yi liked to play dumb like this, they wouldn't have wavered this time. During the last meeting of the noble houses, even Lin Yi's lackeys, Qin Yutian and Wu Qintian, had learned to play the trick. Why didn't they believe that Lin Yi would play the same trick this time? But while help in a time of need was precious, adding flowers to a brocade was inappropriate. Gong Gao and Elder Sun wanted to salvage the situation, but what could they do now? Once Lin Yi woke up, they wouldn't be able to help him. Gong Gao and Elder Sun could only call Wu Qintian and Sun Jingyi, telling them to try their best to build a good relationship with Lin Yi. Qintian and Sun Jingyi, on the other hand, felt helpless. Although they despised their old man's actions, they would still build a good relationship with Lin Yi even if the old man didn't say anything. Fatty Lai, Kong Xiaobo, Sun Jingyi, Wu Qintian, Qin Yutian Lingshan, and even Guan Xuemin all came to Pingzhan's ward. They didn't know where Lin Yi was, but from their point of view, Lin Yi would come to the ward the moment he woke up. Kong Xiaobo also went on a holiday with Fun during the summer. He just came back and found out that something big happened at home. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1850. Chapter 1862. Sorrow but Kong Xiaobo was just a vice president of the company. Even the general manager couldn't do anything about it. What could he do? His family wasn't rich either. A tea house was enough to keep his family afloat, but it was hard to come up with funds that could turn the situation around. But Kong Xiaobo still said that if Pingzhan needed money, he could have his family sell the tea house first. Faubert had already received Mingyao's remittance, so at least the medical fees weren't a problem anymore. In the ward, everyone saw Mengyao and Yushu. Lin Yi wasn't there, but Pingzhan was awake, evidently having received Lin Yi's help. Only Lin Yi could heal a dying person so quickly. Mengyao and Yushu, on the other hand, had a grudge with Lingshan, but Lingshan had risked her life to stop Yulu, and Yushu and Mengyao remembered that. They knew that she did it for Lin Yi's sake, but no matter what, the three of them didn't fight each other like they did before. As for getting along well with each other, that was impossible. At most, they could just pretend that Lingshan didn't exist. Mr. Chu, Mr. Li, I'm truly ashamed that I couldn't get my son to help you with your medical fees. Xu Amin was here to apologize as well. Elder Guan, don't say that. Faubert knew the truth of the matter, and he knew that Xiaoxiang and Xu Amin were at odds with each other because of Lin Yi's medicine company. Now that the company was bankrupt, how could Xiaoxiang be nice to the people around Lin Yi? Yeah, Elder Guan, it's all my fault. If I didn't do that, we wouldn't be in this situation today, Fatty Lai said with a bitter smile. I can't blame anyone. I can only blame myself for going crazy and wanting to invest in futures. Pingzhan said with a wave of his hand. I, on the other hand, am flattered to have so many friends helping me think of a way. But I know that it's all because of Yi, so I have to thank them. Pingzhan's words were sincere. He'd heard Faubert and Mingyao's stories about the tough times they'd gone through, and he'd learned that there were no friends in the business world. These friends were all Lin Yi's friends. Even Xie Guangbua, who sent the money, did so because of Lin Yi. This filled Pingzhan with a myriad of emotions and gratification at the same time. He had come to Songshan alone, and in just half a year he'd already built up such a strong network of friends. This was something Pingzhan could only dream of. However, after experiencing this huge change, he had also changed his mentality. Starting a new business was a must, but at the same time he wanted to make friends that would take care of him. He didn't want to waste his time on work. In a daze, Pingzhan seemed to have returned to his younger days, back to the days when he and Wan were hiding from the Dark Palace. The friend he'd met back then was a true friend. For him, he'd gone through mountains of blades and seas of fire, facing the entire Dark Palace, forcefully forcing them to give up on killing him and Yao Yao. Otherwise, the Dark Palace wouldn't have let Pingzhan and Mengyao go so easily. But the Dark Palace had compromised. But 10 years had passed, and where was that friend now? Sometimes, when he thought of the past, Pingzhan would blame himself for being too young back then. There were many things he didn't ask clearly. His father, on the other hand, got along well with him. But whenever Pingzhan asked about his friend's whereabouts, his father would be very secretive. "You're too kind, Mr. Chu," Fatty Lai said with a smile. "You're an elder. We don't deserve your thanks. But now that boss has woken up, it's not too far away for us to make a comeback. Yeah, it's all in the past." Pingzhan sighed. "We've lost a lot, but we can start over again." Although the words sounded very encouraging and shocking, Fatty Lai and Pingzhan knew how hard it was to start over again. Fatty Lai was fine. As long as he had Lin Yi's support, the medicine company would definitely rise again. But Ping Zhan was a businessman. How hard would it be to start over again? Right? Why isn't sis-in-law Tang Yin here? Kong Xiaobo realized that an important person was missing in the room. Tang Yin. Meng Yao and Yushu were both here, but Tang Yin was missing. It didn't make sense. In this period of time, other than Kong Xiaobo, everyone knew where Tang Yin was, so they avoided the topic. But Kong Xiaobo had just returned, so naturally he didn't know about this. Meng Yao's heart ached when she thought of Tang Yin, and she slowly told them about Tang Yin. Kong Xiaobo couldn't help but feel sad after listening to her. He couldn't see her anymore. The others already knew about the situation, but after hearing Meng Yao's story, they still felt sad and disappointed. I heard that Boss Lin killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move, and one of them was even a late-stage Earth-class. How powerful was that? Yao, Shu, you guys were there, right? Can you tell me what happened? Yu Qian saw that everyone was sad, and he gave Yushu a look. Although Lin Yi wasn't here, he could come back any time, so he changed the topic. Yeah, Yao sis and I were there, and we saw it. Yushu immediately understood and started narrating. The situation was like this: Yao sis and I had just returned home. Just when Yao sis and I didn't know what to do, and those 3 people wanted to kill us and General Weiwu. Shield Bro was like a god descending from the heavens, and he stood in front of us and said one word to the 3 Earth-class masters. One move. Yushu's vivid description made everyone feel like they were there, especially when Lin Yi said the word one move. Their blood boiled. What kind of confidence did he have to be able to face 3 Earth-rank masters with such arrogance? Plus, Lin Yi wasn't bragging, he really did it, killing 3 Earth-class masters with one move. This was a legend to the same-level masters. Even a late-stage peak Earth-class master couldn't say that he could kill 3 early-stage Earth-class masters with one move. After all, although the difference in strength was important, it wasn't as important as before. In a battle between Earth-class masters, the key to victory was martial arts. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1851. Chapter 1863. The bitterness of Fauberdif, an Earth-class early-phase master trained in a powerful martial art technique. He or she might be able to defeat an Earth-class early-phase master who trained in a normal martial art technique. He or she might even be able to defeat an Earth-class mid-phase master who hadn't trained in any martial art techniques. Shoo, it was just a split second. How could you describe it in such detail? Lin Yi smiled as he walked into the ward. He was surprised when he heard Shu's description. He didn't think much of it at the time, but after listening to Shu's description, Lin Yi finally understood how powerful the fire poison qi was. At the same time, Lin Yi sighed. This fire poison qi could only be used once. It would be perfect if it could be used multiple times. But Lin Yi knew that it was just a fantasy. It was too heavy a price to pay for going berserk. Boss! Yu Tian, Qin Tian, Fatty Lai, and Kong Xiaobo stood up at the same time. Although they knew that Lin Yi was safe, they were relieved when they saw Lin Yi. Haha, you're all here. Lin Yi nodded at them. Boss, my grandpa. He didn't bring the money. Qin Tian looked at Lin Yi apologetically and said awkwardly, My family too. My grandpa, you know. Sun Jingyi was also embarrassed. Boss, something like this happened at home, and I'm still playing outside with Fun. Really? Kong Xiaobo's face was red. It's nothing. You guys are you, and your home is your home. As for Kong Xiaobo, it's summer break. It's normal for him to go out and play. Didn't I leave too? Lin Yi waved his hand. As for Qin Tian and Sun Jingyi, Lin Yi couldn't make House Wu and House Sun be friends with him like they were, so Lin Yi didn't blame them at all. As for Kong Xiaobo, Lin Yi didn't have any complaints. Didn't he brought Meng Yao and Yushu out to play as well? Lin Yi was confused at the thought. He remembered that there were more than 3 people who went to West Star Village. But how could he remember 3 people? Yes, there was General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig, but something wasn't right. Lin Yi shook his head. He had just woken up from the Jade space, and his thoughts were a bit messed up. Faubert only noticed Sun Jingyi now. Of course, he saw Sun Jingyi before, but he didn't look so closely. Seeing Sun Jingyi speak, he couldn't help but pay more attention to Sun Jingyi. She looked familiar, and he couldn't help but think of his wife from back then. He felt sad. Sun Jingyi gave Faubert a natural sense of closeness. This was his wife's descendant. Faubert's eyes were a bit wet. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't reveal his identity, he would have wanted to reunite with Sun Jingyi. He was her uncle. It was said that nieces were like aunts. Looking at Sun Jingyi, Faubert seemed to see his wife from back then. He resisted the urge, turned his head, and didn't look at Sun Jingyi anymore. He sighed in his heart. Maybe one day he could take his revenge. Master, wife, daughter, all of them disappeared. Even the sex treasures were all taken by those people. If it was before, the thought of revenge wouldn't be so strong. But after seeing Sun Jingyi today, thinking of his missing wife and witnessing Lin Yi's power of killing 3 Earthrankers in one move, Faubert felt his blood boiling. Lin Yi was in the early phase of Earthranker, and he could already kill Earthrankers. What if Lin Yi was a Heaven Ranker? Would he be able to kill a few Heaven Rankers in one move? Although it was a bit shocking, Faubert was confident. When Lin Yi was in Mystic Ranker, he was the #1 under Earth Ranker. He had just reached Earth Ranker, and he already had such a battle record. Heaven Rankers must be even more powerful. As long as Lin Yi was willing to help, revenge was not a dream at all. Thank you. Pingzhan saw that Lin Yi went out, and he knew that he was going to seek justice for him. But seeing that Lin Yi came back so soon, he thought that Lin Yi didn't find any traces of the Yin family. He said, "Although this incident might have been planned by the Yin family, we don't have any evidence and we can't find them. Forget it. We'll learn from our mistakes. Let's start from the beginning. There's no need for evidence. The car accident was done by Jiang Wen's brother and Mingri's son and Jianda. I've already stomped him to death." Lin Yi smiled and said innocently, "Jiang Wen used the shares and property rights of these industries, plus 2 billion in cash to exchange for his life. But there was an Earth-class late phase peak at the scene, so I only made him break his own legs. That's too easy for him." SSSS. Everyone present took in a cold breath after hearing Lin Yi's words. An Earth-class late phase peak at the scene? And Lin Yi was able to stomp Jianda to death, make Jiang Wen break his own legs, and hand over the shares and property rights of these industries, plus 2 billion in cash. This was unbelievable. Of course, no one thought that Lin Yi was joking. After all, Lin Yi had killed 3 Earth-class masters in one hit. Making an Earth-class late phase peak back off wasn't something too difficult. "Uncle Chu, the shares and property rights are yours. I'll return them to you," Lin Yi said, a little embarrassed. "But I'm afraid I can't give you the 2 billion in cash. My medicine company is also in danger." Pingzhan froze. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say that. Being able to take back the shares and property rights was already out of his expectations. Even if Lin Yi didn't return them to him and took them for himself, Pingzhan wouldn't say a word. After all, it was Lin Yi who took them back with his own strength. It belonged to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was giving it back to him, saying that he was sorry. Pingzhan was a little surprised. What are you talking about?" "You're the one who took these shares back. They're yours in the first place. You don't have to give them to me, let alone the 2 billion. Fatty Lai, who had been depressed, suddenly straightened his back when he heard that Lin Yi had brought back 2 billion. A smile blossomed on his face. Before, he was still worried about the problem of capital. Even if Lin Yi had the prescriptions, it wouldn't be able to turn the situation around in an instant. After all, the factory was already in debt. A few prescriptions wouldn't solve any problems. The reason why House Kong was able to rise so quickly was because of House Yu support. With House Yu's connections, it was a piece of cake for them to help House Kong acquire some small medicine companies. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1852. How to deal with it. Chapter 1864. How to deal with it. The initial funds and prescriptions were all provided by House Yu, and with the help of House Kong, they were able to rise again. But Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was different. Without money, all the prescriptions were useless. His brother had drawn a line with him a long time ago, and Fatty Lai wouldn't borrow money from him. Uncle Chu, these things belong to you in the first place. I have no use for them. Besides, we don't have to be so clear with each other, do we? Lin Yi smiled. When I was going crazy, it was all thanks to Yao Yao's care. She helped me brew medicine every day, or else I wouldn't have woken up so quickly. You're right. I'll take the shares and property for now, but they'll belong to you and Yao Yao sooner or later, Peng Zhan said. Lin Yi pretended not to notice, but the miss blushed. She sneaked a glance at Lin Yi and let out a sigh of relief when she realized that he didn't notice anything. Uncle Chu, let's go back. The villa is back in our hands now, Lin Yi said. I'm a little tired. I want to go back and rest. In fact, Lin Yi was in a hurry to continue practicing the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. The enemies were too strong, and Lin Yi didn't have any new trump cards to use against stronger enemies. That was why he was in such a hurry to practice. All right, I'll leave the hospital now. Peng Zhan nodded. Wu Qintian, come with me. The others can go back and rest. Lin Yi said to Yutian Lingshan and Sun Jingyi, Fatty Lai, accompany me later. Tell me about the medical company, and we'll see how we can defeat Dr. Kong. Okay, Qintian and Fatty Lai said at the same time. Although the medical fees couldn't be reduced due to Guan Xiaoxiang's interference, Xu Min's face was still quite useful in other aspects. Peng Zhan's request to leave the hospital didn't meet with any questions or obstructions at all. The procedures were completed without a hitch. The group went downstairs, and Lin Yi realized that there was no car. He slapped his forehead. Jiang Wen, that bitch. I forgot to ask him for a car. At that time, Lin Yi wanted to leave the villa as soon as possible so that the black-clothed man wouldn't notice anything amiss. He forgot to drive the car back. Haha, it's fine. It's just a car. Peng Zhan, on the other hand, didn't mind. This was the best outcome he could have hoped for. He'd gotten the property and the shares, and the other stuff was secondary. Lingshan and Yutian both had cars, but it was their own. Otherwise, they would have sold their own cars to support Peng Zhan. As for Xiaobo and Fatty Lai's company car, it was towed away by the bank a long time ago. We'll send everyone back. Yutian pointed at Lingshan and his car. All right. Lin Yi nodded and got in the car with the others. On the way, Fatty Lai told Lin Yi about the company's bankruptcy, and he apologized to Lin Yi sincerely. Dr. Kang's medical company couldn't be blamed for this. Business competition was a normal thing. Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company went bankrupt because they expanded their factories too quickly. Once the capital chain was broken, it would be a disaster. Dr. Kang's medical company made so many products all at once. Lin Yi was a little surprised. He didn't think that the Miracle Dr. Kong Medical Company would be able to come up with so many miraculous products in just a month's time after he went back to Star West Village and went into a frenzy for half a month. Lin Yi was very surprised. However, he wasn't too surprised. From the appearance of Right 13, it could be seen that House Kong had other forces behind them. So it wasn't strange that House Kong could rise so quickly. Indeed, I'm surprised as well. Fatty Lai nodded. And the most important thing is that the prices are scarily cheap. We don't have enough products, so we can't do that kind of comprehensive promotion. Give me a copy of each of their products. I'll go back and do some research, Lin Yi sighed. Officer Song, Please find a pharmacy and park the car. I'll go buy some products, Fatty Lai said to Lin Yi. Basically, every pharmacy has their products. All right, but since we're friends with Lin Yi, you can call me Ling Shan. You're treating me like an outsider, Ling Shan said. Haha, right. Fatty Lai didn't reject it. Since they were all people around Lin Yi, it was better to be more familiar with each other. Ling Shan found a pharmacy and parked the car. Fatty Lai got off the car and went to buy some stuff. Not long after, he came back with a bag and handed it to Lin Yi. Lin Yi flipped through it casually and found a lot of the same products. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Why did you buy so many?" "There's buy one get one free, buy two get one free, and there's even free samples." "I'll take them all back," Fatty Lai shrugged helplessly. "They're really good at promoting things." "That's right." "All right, I'll go back and do some research," Lin Yi nodded. Back at the villa, Meng Yao and Yu Shu felt as if a lifetime had passed since they last saw each other. Back then, when they brought Lin Yi, General Weiwu, and Skybolt Pig out of this villa, they thought that they would never come back again. This place would become someone else's territory, but not long after they came back. Why is it so messy? Lin Yi saw all sorts of boxes in the living room. These are from Shu's villa. Her villa is also under Dad's name. Meng Yao said as she told Meng Yao about how Jiang Wen had left the villa to Meng Yao. "I see. Since you've moved it here, just find a place to put it properly. Don't send it back." Lin Yi nodded. "We're going to school in Donghai soon anyway. It's fine if there's a lot of stuff here. Wu Qintian, help Yao Yao and Shu pack up. I'll go look at Fatty Lai's medicine. Right, General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig are still at Grandma Sun's house." "Oh, right, the car is still under the overpass. I'll go get it together?" Meng Yao said. "Let Wu Qintian go with you guys." "I'll be worried," Lin Yi said. "Okay, boss." Wu Qintian, Meng Yao, and Yu Shu went to get the car and pick up General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig. Lin Yi, on the other hand, went to his room and poured all the products from Dr. Kang's medical company on the table. He started studying them one by one. The first one Lin Yi opened was Dr. Kang's Golden Creation. Lin Yi could clearly feel that it was different from before. It could be said that this Golden Creation was completely different from Dr. Kang's Golden Creation. It was more like a jerry-built version of Lin Yi's injury medicine. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1853. A call from a superstar. This person wasn't as good at medicine as Lin Yi, but it was good enough that he could reach this stage. House Kong had a master behind them after all. Lin Yi's suspicions were further confirmed after he saw the Golden Creation's shoddy materials. It wasn't possible to make a big deal out of this Golden Creation, so Lin Yi put it aside. If Lin Yi wanted to reverse the situation, he had to create some negative impact on Dr. Kang's medical company. Even if Lin Yi didn't understand business, he knew this simple logic. Otherwise, even if Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company came up with a similar product, it wouldn't be able to reverse the situation. Fighting a price war wasn't going to work anymore, because Dr. Kang's medical company also had control over low-cost medicine. The next target was the special edition of Golden Creation. For the 299 yuan special edition, Lin Yi didn't need to look to know that House Kong must have changed the formula. This wasn't the skin-beautifying Golden Creation from the auction, but a new product based on Lin Yi's special edition injury medicine. Otherwise, House Kong would lose a lot of money just by using the Millennium Snow Lotus. As expected, this was a very normal formula, an upgraded version of Golden Creation. Lin Yi took a sniff of the medicine, and Lin Yi was shocked. House Kang's apothecary was quite skillful, after all. The ingredients he'd added were similar to the ones he'd added into the special edition injury medicine. But after a while, a confused look appeared on Lin Yi's face. There was no problem with the medicine, but to bring out the effect of the medicine, The special edition golden creation seemed to be missing one ingredient. Lin Yi's special edition injury medicine had it, but Dr. Kang's did not. But if it didn't have it, how could this medicine have the effect of removing scars? Lin Yi applied a little bit of the special edition golden creation on his hand. After a while, Lin Yi's face showed a look of understanding and happiness. Hormones. Although a small amount of this hormone was not harmful to the human body, it went against Dr. Kang's slogan of a pure herbal preparation with no side effects. This was an excellent point of attack. Lin Yi found a pen and paper and quickly wrote down the hormone content and test method of golden creation. He was going to give it to Fatty Lai tomorrow. After that, Lin Yi began to study Dr. Kang's 100 pain reliever. Although the smell of medicinal materials was very strong, when Lin Yi tasted it, he still tasted something unusual. Aminopyrine was a kind of chemical often used in Western medicine, such as painkillers and cold medicines. Although it was widely used in many kinds of medicine, it was now used by the Kong family in the so-called pure herbal preparation, Dr. Kang's 100 pain reliever. It seemed a little strange. Long-term use could even cause liver and kidney dysfunction, but the instruction manual didn't mention this. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't let it go so easily. He continued to write down the chemical name and test method on the paper. The last one was Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine. Looking at the weight loss medicine, Lin Yi's brows furrowed deeply. This was the most complicated medicine Lin Yi had found in all of Dr. Kang's products. According to Lin Yi's preliminary estimation, there were more than 20 kinds of medicine. This made Lin Yi unable to calculate what was in it in such a short time. He didn't understand the pharmacology and properties of the medicine, but Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry. When old Lin was teaching Lin Yi his medical skills, he would often mix different herbs together so that Lin Yi could tell what was in them. This also trained Lin Yi's sensitive sense of smell. According to old Lin, this was the only way he could avoid being poisoned to death. The sound of a car came from the yard. Lin Yi looked up and saw the Grand Cherokee driving back. Wu Qintian, the Miss, and Shu were all back. General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig got off the car with them. As for Grandma Sun, she didn't come with them. Lin Yi put down the things in his hands and walked out of the room. Meng Yao just happened to enter the door, so Lin Yi asked, "Yao Yao, Grandma Sun didn't come with you?" "No, she said that she was with us when we went to Donghai. She's still living in the old house these few days. She has some feelings for it after living there for so many years. She didn't want to leave," Meng Yao said. "That's good." Lin Yi nodded. He took Grandma Sun away because he didn't want her to live there alone. She might attract the Yulu and the 13th house's revenge. She was alone, and naturally, she wouldn't be able to handle it. But at least for now, she wouldn't be in danger before the other houses reacted. "Iron Fist Wu, come help me move the boxes." Shu started packing the things from her villa. "Okay." Qintian nodded without a word and went to help Shu with the work. A mystic late phase peak, a dual practitioner of both body and spirit, had become a porter? Only people like this would appear by Lin Yi's side. Of course, this was in the common world. If it was in the ancient sects, it wouldn't be so rare. The outer disciples of the Ice Palace did odd jobs other than training. Lin Yi went back to his room and continued studying the diet medicine. His phone rang. He picked it up and looked at the name on the screen. Lin Yi was a little surprised. "Su Shirhan? Why are you calling all of a sudden?" To be honest, Lin Yi and Su Shirhan weren't that close, but they weren't that close either. After all, the people around him were all infatuated with her. There was Xiao Xiao, Yao Yao, Xu An. Who else was there? Lin Yi paused and shook his head, helplessly. "Lin Yi, I heard that Miracle Dr. Guan's company is in trouble." "I just came back from promoting overseas and heard about this. Do you need any help?" Su Shirhan asked. As the spokesperson of Miracle Dr. Guan's company, she often bought their painkillers. Naturally, she paid close attention to the company. She heard about this as soon as she came back, so she called Lin Yi immediately. Temporarily. No need, I can solve it. Lin Yi didn't expect Su Shirhan to call. He was a little surprised. His relationship with Su Shirhan wasn't that good, was it? But Su Shirhan and Xiao Xiao were really close. Oh, it's okay. If you need anything, just tell me. Su Shirhan said. Need. Lin Yi listened to Su Shirhan's beautiful voice, and his imagination started to wander. Su Shirhan's voice was soft and gentle, and it was hard for a normal man to not have his imagination run wild, especially when she said it so flirtatiously. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1854. Very angry, however, Lin Yi was a little annoyed. What was wrong with him? He was a little angry today. It must be because he wanted to peek at the miss and got interrupted. He had nowhere to vent, so he came to tease Su Shirhan. Bastard pop-up window. Hearing the exaggeration in Lin Yi's tone, Su Shirhan frowned. In her impression, Lin Yi wasn't a frivolous person. He didn't even look at her. How could he say something like that? So, although Su Shirhan was a little annoyed, she still patiently said, Yes, is there anything I can help with? There's one thing. Lin Yi heard the annoyance in Su Shirhan's voice. He immediately calmed himself down and said seriously, I found out that Dr. Kang's medicine company has some chemicals in their medicine. It doesn't match their advertisement. When they have a press conference, can you help support them? With your influence, it will attract a lot of media. Of course. Su Shirhan agreed without hesitation. She was thinking, did she misunderstand Lin Yi? She just had to deal with a rich young master's pursuit abroad. Did she become a little sensitive? Thanks. I'll get Fatty Lai to contact you when the time comes, Lin Yi said. Okay. Su Shirhan heard that Lin Yi's tone was normal. There was nothing wrong with it. She let out a sigh of relief. After ending the call, Lin Yi continued to study the weight loss medicine. Every time he sniffed out a herb, Lin Yi noted it down on a piece of paper. He only stopped when he had identified all the herbs in the medicine. A normal doctor wouldn't be able to do this, but Lin Yi grew up in a pile of herbs. Ever since he started practicing the art of dragon mastery, he had become much more sensitive to things in the outside world. As long as he touched herbs, he would have a photographic memory. Even old Lin had to admit that he wasn't as good as him. But, according to Zhang Liju's notes, this ability was related to a person's physique, and people with this kind of extreme sensitivity towards herbs, if they were to become a refiner, they would be able to walk to the top of the pyramid. Even Zhang Liju himself could only control a part of it. He wasn't very sensitive. Being able to guess 8 out of 10 herbs was already very impressive. The hidden house, you naturally didn't have such a master. Otherwise, they wouldn't have asked for Lin Yi's recipe. Kuin, of course. As happy as he was that he had this ability, his control over the refinement fire was too weak. It was a waste to have this ability, but not be able to control the refinement fire. No matter how good he was, he wouldn't be able to become a refiner. At most, he would be the refiner's apprentice. He shook his head to get rid of those unrealistic thoughts and started to analyze the prescription in his hands. No poison, no side effects, no rebound, no dieting, healthy and natural weight loss. This was the slogan of Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine. But with the previous 2 medicines as an example, Lin Yi didn't believe that there was nothing fishy about this at all. Lin Yi really couldn't think of any use for these medicines together. Many of them didn't match at all. So how could it have the effect of weight loss? If it weren't for Lin Yi's confidence in his nose and mouth, he would have thought that he had made a mistake. Lin Yi furrowed his brows as he fell into deep thought. After a while, Lin Yi finally opened his eyes, a look of understanding on his face. This was 2 prescriptions, not 1. Lin Yi previously thought of it as a prescription, so naturally there would be a lot of illogicality and contradictions. But if it was divided into 2 prescriptions, there would be no problem. However, after Lin Yi divided the pharmacy, there was a trace of anger on his face. A doctor had a benevolent heart. Although Lin Yi wasn't a good person, and he wouldn't simply make a house call as long as Lin Yi made a move, he would try his best to cure the disease of others. He wouldn't do it perfunctorily or cure this disease again and again, repeatedly. In Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, one of the prescriptions was nothing special. It was a very ordinary tonic prescription. But what made Lin Yi a little puzzled was that the people who wanted to lose weight weren't those who were dying. Why would they use this tonic prescription? Many of the medicines in this prescription could replace food to provide some nutrients to the human body. But only some people who couldn't eat by themselves would use the medicinal solution brewed from this prescription to maintain their lives. Nowadays, most people used glucose instead. It could be said that this prescription was almost no longer used by people. But after looking at the other prescription, Lin Yi understood why it needed to be nourished. The second prescription wasn't a cure at all. In Lin Yi's opinion, it was a scourge poison. This prescription could inhibit the function of the digestive tract, obstruct the digestion and absorption of food, and let the food be directly excreted from the body. Long-term use could even cause gastrointestinal dysfunction, or even damage the gastrointestinal function. The principle of these 2 prescriptions was also very clear. One used medicine to provide a small amount of nutrients to the human body, and the other prevented the digestion of the food that was eaten every day to achieve the goal of losing weight. But how was this losing weight? It was simply a scam. Short-term use could have an obvious effect, but long-term use would damage the stomach and intestines, and it would be too late to regret it. This kind of black-hearted money was what Lin Yi hated the most. The reason why no one found anything wrong with this prescription was that the person who made it was smart. He mixed the 2 prescriptions together. Even if someone found the prescription, they wouldn't be able to understand the principle behind it. Only people like Lin Yi, who had a considerable talent in pharmacology, medicinal properties, and identification of medicinal herbs, could see the flaws in it. Perhaps this was the main reason why the Kong family openly sold this product without fear. Lin Yi recorded the testing method and medicinal properties of the weight loss medicine. He completed an important task. To house Kong, naturally, Lin Yi couldn't use the same method to deal with House, and although Lin Yi was a very domineering person, he had his principles. House and used extreme methods to deal with Pingzhan, so Lin Yi would use extreme methods to deal with them. However, House Kong, at least on the surface, used legal methods to compete with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. If Lin Yi wanted to take back the market, naturally, it would be best to use legal methods instead of forcefully seizing the market. That would damage Miracle Dr. Guan's reputation. As for the culprit, Right 13, he was killed by Lin Yi as well. Now that he was dealing with House Kong, he could use normal methods to destroy them. On the second day, the news of Pingzhan Industries changing ownership spread throughout the entire Songshan city. Target equals _blank. They're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.